Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas, everyone, here at the Voice of College Football. Good to see you. Hope everyone is blessed today. I do know that everyone is blessed today to some degree, of course. Great to see all of you, have you all here. It is a blessing for me to have all of you here talking college football and whatever else we stir up on this fine December 25th. This is the time allotted for the Big Ten Live Show, and so we will spend much of our time directed toward the Big Ten Football Conference and the games that lie ahead, the player acquisition, and so forth. However, of course, this is a different day. This is the date that is set aside to celebrate the birth of our Savior. This isn't exactly the day, but that doesn't matter. So we hope that all of you were able to celebrate today with family, friends, those people that are closest, nearest, and dearest to you. And we thank you so much for being here. You are nearest and dearest to us at the Voice of College Football. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your loyalty. And this all works because of you. As I often say at the start of our videos, best discussion, debate, and analysis. Not because of me, because of your participation. We have left the link to call the show there in the chat. Absolutely, we have. Christmas, 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 Christmas. The first memory, football-related memory that comes to mind, this isn't my first memory, this is the first one that comes to mind, related to Christmas, goes all the way back to 1980. 1980, Christmas Day, 1980. Hard to believe that the Fiesta Bowl was played on Christmas Day in 1980. And we would spend part of the day at our house, and we'd spend part of the day at my grandma's house. And I did not grow up in a football family. I did not grow up in a football-minded family. Two of my great passions in life, one would be football, and at one point in my life, it was a number of sports, baseball, just as much of a passion as football. I received no influence from my family, none, zero. And other passions in life, I can think of one in particular. No influence from my family. So I was it. I was the only one. I was 12 years old, and Ohio State was playing Penn State in the Fiesta Bowl. And even though the Buckeyes had had a disappointing 9-2 season because they were ranked preseason number 1, they lost to UCLA and they lost to some other team. Can't remember the last weekend of November. They lost to somebody else that was kind of inconsequential. Lost that game as well. They finished off a disappointing 9-2 that season. And they played Penn State, Joe Paterno, Kurt Warner, Todd Blackledge, Penn State in the Fiesta Bowl. We traveled. I watched maybe the first quarter, something like that. Then it was traveling, and it was a stop here and a stop there, and got to see the second half and Ohio State blow a lead, 2-score lead, and lose to Penn State in the Fiesta Bowl. That one comes to mind. Of course, we know that there's no college football on today. There was no college football on Christmas Eve. The NFL has taken over. And many of you old-timers remember the Christmas Day in the college football world was reserved for what? Does anyone know? Anyone in the chat know what game Christmas Day was reserved for in college football? This just came to mind. This one just came to mind. We'll take a couple calls here. Exploring with Ben. Mark is doing a live stream. I'm cleaning the apartment. Ugh, what a life. Hopefully the ugh part of that is about the cleaning the apartment. But yes, there would always be a college football game of sorts on Christmas Day. I will be scanning the chat, waiting for the correct answer to that one. And I'm sure if I went through the NFL calendar year to year, there would be all sorts of games that I watched and couldn't miss and had to see on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day in the NFL. Yes. I was arguably a bigger NFL fan for most of my life than a college football fan, but let's not debate that. That's a debate that could go on forever. I always answered people when they asked me, what's your favorite sport, Mark? We know that you're crazy about college football and the NFL and Major League Baseball and memorize all this stuff and know all this stuff. And I would always say they're all dead even. I can't separate the three. All right, let's hit the phone lines. But that is the Christmas memory that comes to mind first and foremost related to college football, other than a particular game that was played on Aloha Bowl. Good try, David. Christmas Eve with the Aloha Bowl. There could be some Aloha Bowls on Christmas Day. There could be. I'd have to go back and look to make sure of that. That's an interesting one. That was not the one I'm thinking of. The Holiday Bowl, no, usually played 27, 28, 29th that week. Oh, Jason got it. I don't know if he's the first one. He might not be the first. The Blue-Gray All-Star Game. The Blue-Gray All-Star Game. I could not figure this out when I was a little kid because it was so frustrating because I was the nerd that wanted to know everybody. And if there was a player I didn't know, I wanted to be able to learn him. If I saw that John Smith was playing wide receiver for the North, I'd be like, okay, who is that? I got to know who he is. What were his stats this year? Why don't I know who he is? Well, he's got stickers all over his helmet, and I can't look him up, of course. There's no internet. And everybody just traded stickers, and everybody's helmets were all clogged up with stickers. The Blue-Gray All-Star Game. Thank you very much for that. I don't know if that was the first answer that came in, so hopefully I'm crediting the right person. But Jason, thank you so much for that. Jim came in with this one as well, and Dave is here. All right, let's get to it. We've got something going on outside. Somebody's excited about something. I tell you, it was a beautiful day today here in the Buckeye State. Beautiful day. The last I checked, it was like 64 degrees. I spent some time outside. A buddy of mine and I, we threw the football around today. I have not thrown a football in 3 or 4 years, something like that. So, hey, I threw the ball, probably hit him in the chest most of the time, almost all the time. And I was happy about that and could actually throw a spiral pretty tight most of the time. And we stretched it out to about 35 yards. And hopefully my shoulder is not too sore in the morning. All right. Mike's on the line, and we've got this hideous college football after dark background on. Good Lord, let's get rid of that as soon as possible. These people need to clean up their shows after they're done. Mike, Merry Christmas. How you doing today? Oh, it would help if I turned you up. No, that's not me. That's you. For some reason, we can't hear you. Can anybody hear Mike? I can't. And it is not necessarily me. Now I've got you turned up here. I heard a pop. Mike, give it another shot. Jump back in. We'll give you a few seconds there, Mike. Otherwise, we got a few other calls coming in. All right. Let's just keep it rolling. Mike, we'll get to you. David?
Well, I wish I could have been out there to run routes with you, Mark.
Oh.
Man, I could have been your Doug Donnelly, to your Art Schleicher.
Yes.
I'm a capable route runner is the way I like to put it, Mark. I'm very precision. I was Wes Welker and Julian Edelman before Wes Welker and Julian Edelman were Wes Welker and Julian Edelman.
Nice.
That move the chains person, 3rd and 7, can get to the sticks, get you 8 yards,
Nice.
Move it forward. Keep the chains moving, Mark.
Reliable, precise on the routes, reliable hands.
Exactly. That 3rd down slot receiver that every team needs, Mark.
Very important.
Very important in chain moving and keeping the drive going. Excellent in the red zone. Good hands, Mark. Wish I was there for you, buddy.
I like that. Yeah. I did not expect to throw the football around today, but it was fun.
Yeah, we had nice weather. Nice weather today. So it worked out well. Wanted to get together with you and talk a little Big Ten. I hear that's what you do here around here on Mondays.
We are talking some Big Ten football. We are.
Uh, First of all, let's talk a little bit of bowl season, and then we can talk a little bit about what's happened here in the off season as well. One thing I did want to mention with the off season, were you a little bit surprised at the Tom Allen move to be the defensive coordinator at Penn State?
I didn't necessarily target Penn State, but of course, Manny Diaz has set himself up to move on. So if that was my line of thinking, I
Right.
guess I could have put that together. I don't generally, that's just not how I think. I don't, I just wait for things to happen. When it comes to coaching moves, people are always asking about coaching moves, and they should ask because those are standard questions for somebody like myself. And all I know is that once Tom Allen was fired, we talked about Tom Allen ad nauseum on our USC channel. And so I did
Mhm.
expect him to get a top flight defensive coordinator position somewhere. Now, I wasn't thinking, okay, Manny Diaz has proven to be at least a decent head coach, and he's a remarkable defensive coordinator. So there's probably an opening there for him. And this is probably the season he's going to jump. And of course, he's a hot commodity. This is a good time for him to jump. And therefore, boom, Tom Allen, Big Ten, Penn State. No, I didn't put that together, but I don't think like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. These coaches, they lose that job. A lot of them have to go end up taking smaller school jobs, outside of Power Five jobs, something like that. Or obviously they can go back to being, what ended up happening with Allen as a coordinator. Diaz did a really good job though at Penn State, though. As a coordinator, you'd have to say, wouldn't you think, Mark, over that 2-year period?
He didn't even do that bad of a job at Miami as a head coach. Now, that
Yeah.
might not be a popular opinion, but did he do the same job that has been done at Miami for the last 20 years by everyone? Yes.
Well, yeah. Well, look at how's the Cristobal era going so far. If you're Miami, I mean, Mark, you would know you've got 25 Miami shows. I mean, are they
We've got a few.
ecstatic about it? I mean, although they're doing a good job of shelling out some dough to get some recruits down there, which is maybe helping the cause. We'll see if that works.
That
But
is supposed to be helping the cause, but they have
yeah,
certainly had other coaches. Mark Richt would be the most recent, and Manny Diaz brought in a top 10 class out of his three. He was always in that top 10 to 15 range, and one was a top 10 class that haven't helped them win. Now we shall see. Mario Cristobal is going to have to bring in better talent than he is a head coach. I don't
yeah.
have a whole lot of confidence in him as a game preparation, in-game adjustment coach.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you that blowing that game at the end of the at the end of regulation there early in the season does not endear a whole lot of confidence, especially with the way that season kind of turned on them. You know,
You rarely see, and yes, that's the most recent and the most egregious example, but you rarely see a team the caliber of Oregon take on a team the caliber of Utah 2 seasons ago, as they did both near the end of the regular season and then just a couple of weeks later in a Pac 12 championship game, and just get whipped both times and not adjust, not get better, not either scheme better and adjust to the first butt kicking or be able to inspire his team to show some pride. Those two games were almost exact mirror images of each other.
right? Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see his next season, and if this big time recruiting, well, they did get a really good class this year. If it starts to pay off for them, or if a bunch of those guys just end up going to hit the portal, after another negative season down there. I will back to the Big Ten. I was going to ask you about the bowl games. By the way, how surprised were you by Northwestern's effort against Utah?
Surprised. I know I don't say that often, but I was surprised, and I was gladly surprised, and I was
Okay,
unashamedly rooting for Northwestern, even though I picked them to lose. I was more invested in
I
that
was
bowl
too.
game than any bowl game thus far. I enjoyed that game. I know it was an ugly game, a defensive game, Northwestern could have built up a big lead in the first half. I think what Northwestern did this year is the best story in college football and remarkable.
By the way, does that prove? And Mark, you had the biggest man crush ever on Pat Fitzgerald for a long, long period of time. He was your guy. As far as when you ranked best
I hate
coaches,
that term,
you
by the
always.
way.
I know, but well, okay. You liked Pat Fitzgerald. Let's put it
Like Pat
that way. You were a
Fitzgerald.
big Pat Fitzgerald fan. And on your rankings of Big Ten coaches, who was always near the top of the list of Big Ten coaches on Mark Rogers' list
I think he was
for
number
like
one at one
3 years or 4 years running, wasn't it? Yeah. Well, is that showing though that okay? I just want to say, and I'm not saying that he didn't do a very solid job over his time frame there, but a solid college football coach. And I'm not saying a top tier guy. I'm not saying a Kirby or a Saban or somebody like that, but I'm saying if you get a solid college football coach and you put him at Northwestern, who's not to say that they couldn't go 7-5, 8-4 on that side of the division consistently? Now the Big Ten's going to totally get flipped around next year with the restructuring, but are we making a little too much of what Fitzgerald did over that long a period of time?
Probably. And this is the other
Okay.
reason. And so I'm going to knock my guy down a little bit. One would be that he was sometimes treated by some media as though this was never ever done at Northwestern before.
Right.
And that's not the case. Gary Barnett, of course,
Randy
took them to the
Walker.
Rose Bowl, and then the next season had just as good a team, went to the Citrus Bowl. So he had roughly 2 top 10 teams in a row. Randy Walker did a nice job. Actually was responsible for Northwestern's last shared Big Ten championship in 2000. And his untimely death, of course, led to Pat Fitzgerald getting that job.
Right.
It's remarkable how underappreciated and underestimated Northwestern is just consistently. This is stuck in my brain since I looked it up. Northwestern was never in the preseason top 25 under Pat Fitzgerald. He finished
Okay.
in the top 25 5 times, but they were never in the preseason poll. They were never favored in a bowl game. And I forget what his bowl record was, but it started off rough, and then he won a lot of bowl games in a row. So they won all those bowl games as an underdog. They were a touchdown underdog in this game against Utah. They played Utah 5 years ago in the Holiday
Right.
Bowl, and they were a touchdown underdog, an 8-point underdog, and won that game.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though. Wasn't Utah down to like their 5th quarterback or 4th quarterback or something in this game? I mean, they weren't,
There were a lot of quarterbacks that went down around this quarterback, but Brandon Rose was their second string quarterback.
Okay. Okay. I thought I'd heard that this was even further. I mean, obviously Rising's been injured and
Yes.
missed a lot of games this year, but I thought this guy was further down the depth chart than just their second string.
Well, he is in the transfer portal and
Okay.
leaving, and his backup is also leaving, Nate Johnson.
Okay. No, I mean, I thought that's a good win for Northwestern. And who knows, like they said after the game, what's going to happen with that coaching staff.
Yeah. That game was interesting in terms of storylines going forward. Just what David Braun's accomplished is remarkable. The offensive coordinator has been let go, and that was known before the season. I didn't understand. Wasn't knowledgeable about what transpired before the season, but he was very vocal and supportive of Pat Fitzgerald. Bajakian, the Mike Bajakian, the offensive coordinator. So he was basically let go before the season and told this will be your last season because the administration didn't appreciate him coming out with, pro Fitzgerald statements and shirts and the whole deal.
Right. Yeah.
And they were adamant during that game. Sean McDonough made this statement over and over and over that tons of players and the entire coaching staff, everybody they talked to was just adamant about that whole situation being made up.
Do you like McDonough as an announcer? Or do you find him annoying from time? Oh, you're a big
Love him.
McDonough. Oh, okay. Because he cuts both ways, I think, Mark. I've heard
Oh,
some
he
people
does. Sure.
that don't like McDonough, and then I've heard some people that really think he does a really solid job.
Oh, he's great.
No,
He's a pro.
I actually like his partner. I actually think Greg McElroy has
Oh,
become
he is too.
fairly good over the years, and a
Love
pretty
that team.
competent guy. Doing college, so and they're doing the second semifinal game. So they're the B crew now. So um, I will say that I wanted to ask you too, along the lines of, and I never got a chance to ask you this, kind of like in your bowl preview, but outside the playoff games, what's your most intriguing bowl game or the bowl game you're most interested in outside the playoffs?
Outside the playoffs in Ohio State.
Well, if you want to say that, well, I mean, you're interested in that for obvious reasons, some would say, but I mean, just your most intriguing game. If you think it's Ohio State, go ahead. But
Well, now that just about everyone seems as though they're going to play, I don't expect Marvin Harrison to play, but
no,
outside of him, we're getting good positive feedback, and we have yet to hear about anybody else opting out. And because of Devin Brown playing a full game with the offense being all on his shoulders and him having all that prep time to lead into that game, and so I am obviously much more invested in that outcome and that performance. But I also, even
sure.
taking myself out of my fandom, think that they're one of the five best programs in the country, and this is interesting to see uh, their players be invested and possibly more players coming back than we anticipated, and a possible audition for Devin Brown to show that he can handle this team next year if they don't get somebody top notch in the transfer portal. Outside of that game, I really like the Oklahoma Arizona matchup, but
Mm.
again, I got to kind of sift through opt outs. Dylan Gabriel's not playing, but Jackson Arnold's playing, who is their future. So I think that's a great matchup. Oklahoma, Arizona.
What about and I don't know the opt out situation, but speaking of SEC Big Ten, what about Penn State Ole Miss?
Yeah, that's a good one. Penn State will have quite a few guys
Are they going to have a lot?
on defense. I haven't really looked into it. I should probably scan all that and
Because I saw that as a great like opposites game. Penn State's defense versus that Ole Miss offense kind of game. How Penn State would match up with that Ole Miss offense. It can be pretty explosive. It can score some points. But you're right though. I didn't know the opt outs in that game. I was going to ask you that question because if all those Penn State defensive players opt out, then I wonder how good, how much luster does that matchup lose? Because at first blush, I think that's a really intriguing matchup and a good. I think a fairly even matchup for the Big Ten. Now, if Penn State's not a full strength and they got a ton of guys opting out, then that doesn't become as good or as intriguing a matchup. Because I wonder if, like, the Chop Robinsons of the world or, any of their defensive backs, or if some of those guys aren't going to play.
so we've got Chop Robinson out for sure.
Okay.
And I already knew that. I can't find anything. Yeah, that's the only one I see for sure.
Well, I know their one offensive tackle is supposed to be a first round
Oh,
draft
yeah,
pick,
yeah, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Olafashanu.
Ashanu. Yeah.
Yeah, Fashanu. So, and I think maybe they might have a player or two in the secondary that could go high in the draft as well. I think Carter's coming back next year, if I'm not mistaken, at linebacker.
Yeah.
Abdul Carter.
Abdul Carter. I don't remember seeing that. Yeah, I'm not coming up with anything.
I think he.
Besides, yeah, Chop Robinson not playing, and
But
the left tackle who, like you, I've always pronounced his last name Fashanu, but I keep hearing Fashanu. So
yeah,
whatever his name is, he's going to make a lot of money.
he will. It's going to be a very high pick in the draft, at least according to the draft previews that I've seen. So, I did want to get to the Buckeyes matchup with Missouri. I talked to Uncle Lou about it. He was obviously tormenting me with Ohio State's record against the SEC in bowl games, which has been implanted in my brain for a long, long period of time, especially amongst SEC fans. Although I tried to convince him we should grandfather a few of those wins over Texas A&M into, maybe kind of help us out, kind of help out that record a little bit, right, Mark? I don't know if those can be, though, considering,
That's
Texas A&M
Ohio
was in the
State's
Big 12 at that
kryptonite.
time.
When you talk about Ohio State's legacy, man, we can go in any direction, and it's as good as anybody in history on any level, anywhere. But that 2-12, that's tough to
Well,
explain. It can't be explained. I can't defend it. I could go through every game and make all sorts of
sure,
excuses that are somewhat valid, some of them, but it's still, the record is the record.
sure. Well, I mean, one kick would have helped things last year, wouldn't it, Mark?
Yeah, the kick would have happened. That
I mean,
that would have taken
one
care of
field goal would have helped,
that would have helped right there. Yep.
So, I mean, I don't know what you think of this Missouri team, Mark, but I mean, I've watched them a couple times. I think they're a solid football team.
Yeah.
I think they've got some talent on the offensive side of the football that looks pretty good. They've got 2 losses this year. I watched that pretty much all that game against Georgia, and I thought they hung in there extremely well against Georgia for pretty much that entire game. Had a chance to win the game in late in the fourth quarter, put themselves in a position to win. And to me, it looks like a pretty solid, well-coached football team with some solid offensive talent. What am I missing, Mark? You want to kind of
Missouri
paint
is
the
one of
rest
the
of the
best
picture?
defenses in the SEC as well.
Hmm.
And I don't know what their opt-out status is. They have one of the best receivers in the SEC, who was a 5-star, Luther Burden, who has come through.
Right.
And of course, their top running back, Cody Schrader,
Right.
had a ridiculous second half, almost put himself in the Heisman race. Brady Cook's a good quarterback, a mobile quarterback. They're a really good team. They're a top 10 or 15 team.
Correct me, their first loss was LSU or Ole Miss?
They lost to LSU.
Right,
They
LSU, I
were
thought.
they were up by double digits in that game at home. They lost 45-35. I know they lost by 10 points, but they were down by 3. They had the ball, less than a minute left. They threw a pick 6 that ended the game and made it a 10-point game. And then, lost the Georgia game, 9-point game in
Yeah.
Athens. It was
Yeah.
a competitive game all the way through.
Yeah, I mean that was really a one possession game. I think with about 4 to 5 minutes left, if I'm not mistaken. I think Georgia kicked a late field goal to basically put the game away, and kick it from a 6-point lead to a 9-point lead, and ended the game. I mean, from my perspective, I just want to see what Devin Brown can do, Mark. I want to see what Devin Brown can do. I'm excited that a lot of these players want to come back and play in this bowl game. Interesting enough, the first Ohio State bowl game I ever watched was against Texas A&M and your old buddy Jackie Sherrill in that Cotton Bowl, Mark, which was a big victory for Coach Bruce. Looking good in the fedora that day. And they crushed what was a really good Texas A&M team that won the Southwestern Conference that year. I believe that was Kyler Murray's father that was the quarterback of that team, if I'm not mistaken.
Good call. It sure was.
And they thumped them pretty good. I actually think that this will be a good chance to see Brown's skill set and see how Day utilizes him. If they incorporate his legs, do some zone read or quarterback run, things like that with him in this game. Also interested to see, I'm hearing Travion Henderson's going to play at running back. Interested to see, what he looks like running the football against their defense. I think there's great optimism, Mark, that they're going to have some guys returning next year, and that they're not. Listening to Buckeye's show this week that they might have more people returning than they thought would be earlier in the season.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like, which I did not expect. And Devin Brown really didn't have the opportunity, nor
No,
did he show us that he could really throw the ball downfield, make difficult throws. Really just didn't have that opportunity. I don't recall anything of substance in the passing game that looked good to me at all. So I want to see him throw the ball 25 or 30 times and,
Yeah.
10 or 12 times have to chuck it downfield, make some out routes, make some decisions in the pocket, do those sorts of things. This quarterback situation going into next year is fascinating about whether they're going to be able to get one of these top quarterbacks in the transfer portal that I am not sold on any of them being an elite quarterback. I know Cam Ward has that reputation based on
By the way,
being a
Mark,
good quarterback.
who did you come down to as your in your opinion as the best quarterback in the portal? What was your final verdict on that?
The best quarterback that I've seen in the portal is KJ
Yeah.
Jefferson. He's played the best.
Okay.
Cam Ward is supposed to be the best. I can't really say that I've seen him play enough to judge him. He turns the ball over quite a bit. I know that. I also know that he played for a marginal team.
See, I like Jefferson, but I was wondering if you had Gabriel or Riley Leonard high on your list because I know a lot of people were big. Gabriel put up some solid numbers this year for Oklahoma. Had a pretty good year.
I saw Riley Leonard quite a bit this year because they played that Clemson opening game. They played Notre Dame. I watched that entire game. Florida State is when he got hurt, and pretty much that almost ended his season. And really, he was never the same after that and didn't play much. And I was talking to Brian Driscoll, the Irish Breakdown guy, this week, and asking
Yeah.
him about Riley Leonard because to me, when Sam Hartman, I knew exactly who Sam Hartman was. And Riley Leonard to me is more of a gamer, a baller, uh, a street fighter kind of quarterback, like not an ultra impressive thrower of the football. But Brian Driscoll, who's watched a ton of tape on him, seems to think that that was more product of the limitations on the Duke offense and less about
Mhm.
Riley Leonard, but that he has a more than capable arm. So I was more impressed with his gamesmanship and his leadership and his guts than his raw talent when I've seen him. But that was my thought. Dylan Gabriel's a really good quarterback. Uh, I was when you asked me the question about quarterbacks, I was discarding the guys. I was not. I'd eliminated the guys that were already taken. But Dylan Gabriel, he has the highest floor of all those guys. You know what he's going to deliver. He's not going to let you down.
Right.
But he's not a high end quarterback. I was a little surprised that Will Rogers went to Washington. I like Will Rogers, but he's going to have to prove to me that he's not a product of a system because when I've watched him play, it's been a lot of get the ball out of your hand, air raid. Mike Leach obviously produced all those numbers and he executed in that offense extremely well. But man, to go from Michael Penix and that big arm to Will Rogers, and
Sure.
hopefully Will Rogers is not permanently affected by the injuries that he suffered this year because in the Egg Bowl, he could not throw the ball. His
See,
arm skill was diminished considerably.
yeah, you're right. I think Penix. It's interesting. Penix has had some good receivers to play with, where at both places he's been. Because remember, Indiana had a couple of good receivers when he was there, and then that group at Washington was really good this year. And I think that just worked really well with his kind of big arm talent and receivers who can get down the field, run those vertical routes, and they can stretch the defense. I am interested to see Gabriel though in that Oregon offense that Dan Lanning is running, and to see if he could have at least similar type of success that Bo Nix did. So
Yeah, and I think he can. He's a similar quarterback in that they're both really good runners. I would say Nix is more Fran Tarkington, Russell Wilson. I can cut on a dime. I can scramble around and juke guys. Dylan Gabriel's just got good speed and he can run and he's a very capable runner. And I think Nix is a little more, he's become more consistent, accurate. Now, I didn't remember seeing
Yeah.
Dylan Gabriel a lot other than the Texas game. I probably watched the Kansas game, but I don't remember taking too much from that. But Dylan Gabriel's been known being a little scattershot. He can miss
Yeah.
some throws, although Jaden Daniels had that reputation and played much like that up until this year, too. And he really zeroed in.
That's true. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he can do. And Ohio State gets them an Outson early in the season next year, so that'll be real interesting. Last point on McCord, by the way, I never got a chance to really comment on it, Mark. Um, Sorry to see he had to sit on the sideline of that bowl game. That had to be rough to watch that one, right? But yeah, that 45-0 drubbing. It was not. He didn't necessarily have a smile on his face there, but you know. I'm interested to see what Fran Brown. A lot of people think, he's a really good coach and is going to do some, solid things there. Um, I will say this, from an Ohio State perspective, and I think a lot of the fan base felt that, bottom line, if you're not willing to compete for the job, and I think that there was a feeling, at least from what I've heard, that he had this feeling that he was entitled to the job going into next year, which after this season, and in my view, the lack of growth that he showed, and I was optimistic that he was going to show growth after the Notre Dame game. And to me, he just didn't. He just, bottom line, didn't show enough growth. I think there was too much inconsistency. There, obviously the lack of mobility didn't help the cause. He always seemed to make that one or two oh shit throw every game. Why did you do that throw? He did that obviously in the last game of the year, and it really cost them. And, pardon my Swahili there on Christmas, but, he would do that from time to time, and it would cost them. And I think him, feeling that he was entitled to the job, I think was a little bit too far. And his unwillingness to compete in the spring is really, I think, I don't know, Mark. To me, it was discouraging. That was my view on that. I don't know if that was your view on it at the time as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in that same category. I wouldn't mind any coach who said everybody's job is up for grabs all the time. Now, if you're CJ Stroud and you're coming off of those 2 seasons, then you're much more in a position to have a stance that why should I be challenged? And it's understandable. But if you're as good as you're supposed to be, then you should be able to fend off anyone. Yeah, Kyle McCord did not earn the right in any way to not be challenged for a starting quarterback position by any stretch of the imagination. I thought he got better as the season went on, but I would agree with you. It wasn't as much as I thought, nor as much as they needed, of course, to win a national championship. They could easily be still playing right now, but he didn't get the job done, and it wasn't all on him, but he was a big part of it. You take away 1 throw, 2 throws of Kyle McCord, and they're probably in the playoff right now, and they're probably the 1 seed. Syracuse, I didn't think that he would necessarily tumble that far, but maybe that's showing us that is the highest level he can go to and be almost assured that he's going to be the starting quarterback.
Right. Yeah, I wasn't going to say MAC school. I know some of the fans were being, overly critical and saying he should be a MAC quarterback or something. But yeah, I mean, maybe Syracuse, which is a solid program, could be the right fit for him. Now, I don't know how much skill talent they can surround him with, or an offensive line that they're going to surround him with, because you better get him a good one, because he's not super mobile. So, time will tell.
Our guy LFG is telling us that Aiden Childs, who went from Oregon State as their backup and signed with Michigan State, that he's supposed to be better. And that's what I hear, but he only threw about 35 passes this year. So I don't know.
New coach there at Sparty, by the way.
Yes, that's about as good as they could have done.
Really?
That's a great pickup.
John Smith.
Yes.
The last John Smith they had didn't work out too well, Mark.
Well, he had some decent seasons. He had some,
let's be fair.
Anyway, he was okay.
Yeah,
but he was a bit of a loose cannon. Yeah,
right, I'd say so.
He was a big loose cannon. Then he went to Arkansas, and for some reason, when he got that job at Arkansas, I thought, did they not review anything, look at anything that he did at Michigan State? Like, who wants this guy running a major football program? Yeah.
Yeah.
Last Jonathan Smith or John Smith, John L. Smith.
John L.
Yes.
Smith. Right.
What a character that guy was. Yes. I remember
Halftime.
him at
Yeah.
halftime just
Yep.
making the most ridiculous, dumb comments.
Yeah, halftime of that OSU game with that Drew Stanton team. Is it Stanton? It's
Yeah,
Stanton
Drew
or
Stanton.
Yeah. Yeah. He went off on poor Jack Root, man.
Jack Root.
Yeah. That'd be rough.
But this Jonathan Smith, that's a great hire.
Well, you had Sparty always ranked as what, a top 20 to 25 job, Mark, or would you have somewhere in that neighborhood?
Sure. Yeah.
It could be a good job. You get the right guy. Mark D did a great job there.
He sure did.
So. All right, Mark. Well, I hope you had a Merry Christmas. And hey, if you're next time you're in town, maybe reach out to me. We can find a football yard, maybe run some routes.
It sounds good.
All right.
That sounds good.
All right, my friend. You have a good one. Take care, Mark.
All right, David. Have a good one. Take care. All right, everyone. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. If Exploring with Ben is telling you to smash the like button, then you got to get right on it. Our illustrious host from our Sunday night college football after dark show. All right. Mike has been patient. Mike has been waiting on us. Hopefully we can hear from Mike.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Oh, that's a good test. It's coming
All
through
right.
loud and clear.
Yeah, I switched out. My comfortable headset has been kind of giving me problems lately, but I've been kind of riding it because the new ones I have, they're not as comfortable, but I guess I have to throw away the old ones.
Yeah, well, I don't know what the deal was, but yeah, nothing.
So, how'd your Christmas go?
Well, my Christmas basically starts tomorrow, so didn't have a whole lot of festivities the last few days. A little here and there, but not much. How about you?
About 90% of my stuff was yesterday. All the running around to the different families and a little bit this morning, and now I am done with Christmas.
Okay. Yeah, my Christmas basically starts tomorrow, so you may not see me much for a few days, but I am planning on doing a late night call-in show every night this week at the very minimum.
Works for me. Gives me something to do.
I mean, like midnight or so.
I don't know about that.
Late.
That's 11 o'clock my time. Ooh, Mikey got to get his beauty sleep. He needs it. Oh, and I did get another Christmas present. For the first time since Barry Sanders was young, Lions have won the NFC North.
We'll be playing a home playoff game for the first time since 1993.
Go figure. Yeah, in fact, I don't know if they've ever won the NFC North. I mean, the last time they won, it was the NFC Central, I believe.
Yes.
So
yeah, because that was the last time they changed that in 2002 is when they went to the 4 divisions.
So, and another interesting way for the state of Michigan to make the news. What's his name? I think it's like Corey Hernandez. He was the Eastern Michigan player that decided to pull a LeGarrette Blount impersonation after watching his team get absolutely trounced by South Alabama.
I did not see that. I only heard about it.
Yeah, I mean, I never heard a motive or anything, or why he went out or why he picked the guy he did. I mean, because if it could be just frustration from getting whipped by 100 points because there was all your guys out there to take a pick, but he just picked one and just decided to go sucker punch him.
Yeah, I heard about that. Did not look that one up. Didn't see anything really from that game. It was such a blowout, and somebody else was playing at the same time. Much better game.
Yeah, that's why I have multiple monitors. I mean, I kind of put the Eastern Michigan, South Alabama over on my left monitor here, where you can see I got my Discord with Voice of College Football up there. If you can see at the very left over there, that was my side screen, because I think after like 38-3, I stopped paying attention to it, but I just happened to notice at the end, some guy just running out and just I'm like, what just happened here?
Oh, so they caught it live.
I didn't actually catch it. I don't think it was live, but it was a little bit delayed. I don't think it. I don't think it happened in live time. I'd have to go back and check, but they did later show some footage of that on ESPN.
Okay.
I just happened to. The stream didn't close, and there was some like news come up, and the game. I think the game was already over. I don't think this happened live time, but it's like I don't know what it is about the state of Michigan between last year what Michigan State players did in our tunnel, and then the Eastern Michigan guys like we need to show some better sportsmanship up in the Wolverine state.
It is the Wolverine State. Is that an official title?
It's either Wolverine State or Great Lakes State, depending on who you ask.
Okay. I don't remember memorizing or learning that in school when you learn all the state nicknames, the Wolverine State.
Yeah, well, I remember doing nicknames back in like elementary school.
Yeah.
A lot of states had multiple.
Yes.
I think I've never heard anything other than Ohio being the Buckeye State.
Yeah, that would be it for the Buckeye State. State bird is the cardinal, I believe. I don't know that I've ever seen a cardinal in Ohio, but I think that's the state bird.
I've seen them down here. In fact, I saw one yesterday.
Oh, well, maybe I'm just not.
They all migrate down here. Man, I was seeing the chat earlier. My Bowl Mania took a hit the other day.
Yeah, we'll check that out. I've been planning on checking that out to see where everybody stands. I bet you're not alone because, well, I'd have to go through my picks, but I think I pretty much nailed most of the point spreads yesterday or the day before. But in terms of the game winners, I was missing all those, almost all of them.
I guess I should start listening to you more, huh?
Well, again, I didn't hit the game winners though. Like James Madison and Air Force, once they started playing, and here's the problem is, of course, the opt-outs. I didn't look up these games. I didn't put any effort into looking anything up, and I see James Madison had a ton of opt-outs. Plus, of course, their coach, the whole coaching staff practically is gone. The quarterback played, even though he's in the transfer portal, McLeod. But I kind of thought that there were two interesting stats that our guy Steve Merrill gave me that I did not act on, I don't believe, during this bowl season. But he said that teams that got their sixth win to become bowl eligible, the last game of the season, do well during bowl games historically. And also teams that, had like bad conclusions to their seasons, like Air Force. They started at 8-0. They lost 4 straight games. That those are typically good plays for the bowl season.
Yeah, and I kind of went against the grade. Normally, in the history of when I do the bowl picking thing, I tend to pick service academies because I mean it's usually the fact that the triple option teams, everybody they have to play runs a normal
Yes,
offense.
sure.
Whereas almost everybody that runs a normal offense doesn't have to play against a triple option team.
So let's back this up, Mike. Keep going. I'm going to look up. We're going to look at the current bowl records of all the service academy coaches.
And it wouldn't surprise me if they were pretty good.
I think they are too.
But I went against the grain. I guess I was buying in too much of the JMU hype. And I guess I consider it kind of a oh geez, look at that. Win. They're at a 5 bowl win streak.
Yeah. So we've got Troy Calhoun there at Air Force, who has been on our show 3 or 4 times. We like Coach Calhoun. 5 consecutive bowl wins. And so then he overall is what, 5, 6, and 2, if I've got them all there. But yeah, 5 straight, 6 and 3, 8 and 3, 8 and 4, 8 and 5, but 5 straight is what I'm seeing. So a pretty good indication because I've got to think almost all those games were against Power 5 teams. Almost
Mostly.
all of them.
Usually, yeah. They'll usually play some middle of the road
Yeah.
Power 5 team.
Probably the best team they played was that. No, I'm thinking of somebody else. No, I'm not. I'm thinking of
They played Ohio
Air
State.
Force. No, there it is. 2019. I'm talking about that 11-2 team in 2019. They beat Washington State in that Cheez-It Bowl to finish in the top 25.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So that's Troy Calhoun, 8-5, 5 straight. And then we've got Jeff Monken. Am I spelling this right? There we go.
Now, I would imagine of the three, Army's probably got the worst of the three, would be my guess. Whoa. 4-1.
4-1.
Jeez.
Now, one of those wins was a win against Missouri on a last-second field goal. One of those wins, they beat Houston 70-14. And I'm not remembering which was which. Liberty Bowl loss. I don't remember that one.
Didn't they play SMU in a bowl?
This Liberty Bowl loss was to West Virginia 24-21. So there's a respectable showing even in that loss. I believe this is the Missouri win. Yeah, 24-22. They beat Missouri. And this should be that Houston just,
Yeah.
70
That was when they wiped out Houston.
And then we've got, I'm losing my tabs here. Then we've got the Armed Forces Bowl. They beat San Diego State 42-35. That San Diego State team was 10-2.
Yeah.
They were no slouch. And the Heart of Dallas Bowl, they defeated North Texas 38-31. Okay. So there we go. 4-1, 8-5. We're 12-6. And then let's skip the current Navy coach. Of course, he just started. We'll go to Ken Matalolo.
It's a good thing, Google, because if you asked me to spell his name, there's no way I could even bother.
I've spelled it enough through the years that I finally figured it out. It's ingrained. He's 3-1, 5-1, 5-2, 5-3, 6-5, and won 5 of the last 6. So yeah, the service academies have done rather well.
Yeah, I don't know why I switched up. So next year, you remind me, don't bet against the service academies, Mike.
And I will remind myself. Yeah, let's look at Saturday's games. This past Saturday, I watched Duke and Troy.
Don't bring up that game.
No? Oh, Mike, you should have taken Duke. I was pretty confident there.
That stung.
Okay. How many points did you put on that?
42.
Ooh.
Well, now, in my defense, I didn't know that, a large portion of the Troy team would get sick before the game.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that. The quarterback was really sick.
And apparently they put him with other guys and he infected everybody else. Brilliant. That's smart.
Northern Illinois, Arkansas State. I got that one right.
I got that one right, but I don't think I put many points on it.
There's the Air Force game. They were never really threatened. They were in good shape. Georgia State, I took them. That game was almost a pick 'em. It was like a 1 or 2 point spread. So I was good there. I took Georgia State to cover and to win.
Same.
South Alabama. Now I'm a sucker for that kind of point total. Like they were given 17.5, so I grabbed it. But yeah.
And a lot of that was just now was it Oklahoma State that they really took the town?
Yes.
And I really hate, picking bowl games based on one game, which is why I hesitated for the picking South Florida against Syracuse, even though I kind of wish I'd taken that one back.
Well, South Alabama is their. Let's see, their season was a pretty good season here. They went. They only went 7-6. They went 11-2 last year.
Yeah, they were down from last year.
Played a fairly respectable game against Tulane. Yeah, they trounced Oklahoma State before they got things figured out. Yeah, I just know another trend in bowl season is take double digits. And so I just blindly took the double digits there. So I just thought, okay, 17.5. Go ahead and take that. And then, of course, I did not foresee Northwestern winning.
I don't think a lot of people did. I was kind of middle of the road until I heard that Utah's pig farmer quarterback was going to play in the game. Then I was like, well, yeah, there's no way I can pick against Utah now.
And then this Coastal Carolina San Jose spread, but I picked San Jose State. They were a 10-point favorite. I picked them to win. So I picked almost all these right against the spread. I think I went 5-2 against the spread, if that's how many games were played.
Yeah, I lost on San Jose State too, but I don't think I put that many points. I think I put like 4 points in San Jose State. So
yeah, we'll see if we can find the standings here. So everyone listen up. We're going to post the bowl challenge standings here.
And somehow, even though I had a horrible weekend, I'm still in the top 3. That
Okay.
this Mr. Bittens guy is just blowing out the field. And then the Fool is ahead of me by a few points, and then I'm in 3rd. But Traveling Fools has got a higher maximum me by like 80 points. So, but now I've got the 40 and 41 are slam dunks for me because I've got LSU over Wisconsin at 40 and Georgia over Florida State at 41. And in case there's anybody, the 5 or 6 people out there in the world that picked Florida State, Tate Rodemaker is entering the transfer portal and he is not playing that game.
I did not hear that.
Just
oh my
came
goodness.
I mean, I don't know how much that really matters. Like, in case you want to change your pick from Florida State.
I don't think it matters in terms of the outcome of the game, but I think it matters in terms of the final score. I think they had a chance to at least make it somewhat respectable, but they're going to be playing the freshman that played against
it's Louisville, yeah.
Louisville, Brock Glenn. Yikes.
Yeah, so I think any chance of this game being close kind of went out the window.
I asked my Florida State guys this week about Tate Rodemaker. That was a specific point blank question. Not that they can foresee the future, but I said they're looking at Cam Ward and they're looking at bringing in somebody else. This guy's a 4-star, Tate Rodemaker. Is he going to transfer if they bring somebody else in? Well, there we go.
Yep.
Okay, Mr. Mittens, what's your secret here? What does this percentage at the end mean?
I think that's a percentage of I think it's a percentage of the percentage chance he's going to win the group.
Oh, okay. I was going to say because okay,
no, it's not the percentage of points because
that would be impossible.
But I mean the 99.9% means he's going to win the group. I'm hanging in there at 92.5, but a lot's got to go right for me, and a lot's got to go wrong for him and Traveling Fools. Like I said, my max points is 757 because I took a few hits.
Yeah, well, you're only okay. You're only 10-8, but you've done fairly well in distributing your points outside of that one game.
Let me pull it up. I did have a few more hits. Let me scroll the bottom of mine.
Yes.
Go on.
I was just going to say, Mike, that the last time we had you on, we looked at the board, and I was extremely impressed with everyone's records. And now, yes, Saturday was brutal.
Yeah, a lot of underdogs on Saturday. So let's see here. I had Troy for 42. That was a hit. I had Utah for 37. That was a hit. I had James Madison for 35. That's a hit.
Oh,
I had UCF beating Georgia Tech for 29. That was a hit. And then New Mexico State just completely laid an egg for 26 against me.
yeah.
Those are my big ones. The rest of my losses are on the small side.
I got off to a rough start, but the last few days I did pretty well. I did take Georgia Tech straight up, and then all those other Saturday games that I've mentioned.
That one I was kind of wondering because, I mean, if we were going by the UCF that played Oklahoma,
Yeah.
and then I was going to the Georgia Tech. Now Georgia Tech
And
they were,
Oklahoma State.
yeah, and Oklahoma State, and then Georgia Tech. I mean, they're kind of up and down. On the plus, they gave Georgia a very competitive game at the end,
Yes.
and
And you were probably feeling pretty good in the first quarter because UCF was dominating that game.
yeah, there were a couple games in mine where my team was early on and then just kind of pissed it away towards the end.
UCF needed to be up like 28-0 in that game. They were up 14-0, and they just their receivers could not be covered. They were doing everything right. They needed to take advantage of all that momentum, but they squandered a few scoring opportunities, and Georgia Tech just kind of moved themselves back in the game.
Yeah, there was I think there was one game that it was the reverse where I think it was Western Kentucky Old Dominion, where I had Western Kentucky, and West Kentucky was getting beat by 21 towards the end of the third quarter. And I went to bed just thinking, okay, I lost that one. Then I woke up and say, well, did you see that? Everybody's, that pick Western Kentucky were bragging about their points. I'm like, what just happened? They were down 35-14 at the end of the third when I went to bed.
Yeah.
And I woke up and they won 38-35. I'm like, what just happened here?
Now, I wonder if any of these outfits that run these pick'em pools have ever tried this, where you can pick the games as you go instead of picking them all at the start before any games are played, that you could play them as you go. And let's say you already had taken the 25 spot. The system would not allow you to take 25 points because you already used that up. And you could just pick the games as they come up.
You kind of can. Now, with the way Bowl Mania's done, you can change your pick up until a few minutes before the kickoff, and then it locks it in. But say if you got a word 2 hours before the game, team XYZ's quarterback got COVID, or team ABC's coach took another job at XYZ, you could go ahead and switch them real quick if you think that's a factor.
Then you would just have to adjust another pick.
Yeah, I mean, you can adjust the points too, but at some point in time, that's just because if you adjust that one, you have to adjust the point total you change it to, and you have to adjust that one, unless you just want to just swap two specific points. But I mean, if you want to just kind of retool the whole thing, it's just at that point, it's just not even worth it.
So that's where we stand with 18 down and I believe 23 to go. So a lot of football to be played, but yeah, I don't know who Mr. Mittens is. Mr. Mittens, let us know who you are at some point. That would be cool. TF, our buddy Traveling Fools. There's Mike in third place. Mando the Golfers picks 1. Do not know who that is. Do not know number 5, 6. I believe that's our guy Jackson Johnson at 7, I would guess. There's Corey, tied for 7th. There's the real MVP. I do not know 10, 11, 12. Joey Foster at 13. 14, B Beans at 15. Do not know 16, 17, 18. Moose is at 19. Cole, the Nebraska fan, at 20. Do not know 21, 22, 3, 4, 5. Ballard. Mr. Alabama's at 26, 27, 27. Exploring with Ben at 29. Casey Mallory's at 30. Okay.
Then there's a page 2 because I think
Oh,
there's like
sorry, folks.
45, 50 people in your group.
Oh, I did not realize. Oh, okay. Here we go. All right. Maybe the group didn't do quite as well as I thought. I thought that was the worst person in the group. Commish, I do not know. Down to, don't know those first few. And then we got our guy Spaz at 36. Then we've got some folks I'm not recognizing. We've got Will at 43. Did not make some picks. He's 3-7. And then I'm not figuring out.
I know Nate DeGrade. He's a Michigan guy.
Oh, then we got some folks that chimed in, then they did not play.
Moose, 46. Shame, son. You have to step up your game.
Well, he hasn't made a pick.
Oh.
He didn't pick any games.
Oh, never mind then. Yeah, I guess we're down to people that just didn't. They registered but just didn't.
Yeah, we had about 15 people that did not. So we've legitimately got 45. Yeah. Okay. Love it. I should have jumped in and played. Yeah,
it'd be kind of fun just to see, how we all compare to the great Mark Rogers, no D.
Oh, yes. Well, not great in my bowl picks this year. But I'm going to make the excuse that everybody else makes, opt-outs and not keeping up with the opt-outs. And
yeah,
I mean, like me, just kicking myself when I see, James Madison doesn't have it. Like 11 players.
Yeah, honestly, I think if I was to ever get a X, I would probably just get it like for the Christmas bowl season. That way I can keep up, any late second opt-outs or transfers or declared for the draft and not playing it, or or got sick or having a migraine that day or throwing a hissy fit, whatever, just so I can kind of get the full picture right before kickoff. Maybe I could sand off the rough edges, make that like 12-6, 13-5.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a difference. Now, sometimes you can outguess yourself and outthink yourself. That happens too. But I think it's better to have the information.
Yeah, that is definitely true. Well, I'll hop off here and let you get your super chats done.
Well, thank you, Mike. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
Merry Christmas to Mike, who had the Santa hat on there. And everyone else. Appreciate you all being here at the Voice of College Football. Okay. Yes, super chats. I apologize for not getting to these. Here we go. TF. 364 other days of the year. It's yo. Ho, 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 ho. Smash that thumbs up. Thank you, TF. Appreciate you being here. He is a member and has been here at the Voice of College Football now for 3 months. And that is just one of many things we are going to evaluate once we clear the season and kick off the off season is what we offer here on our membership here at the Voice of College Football, which is, of course, among other things, we had Steve Merrill's under the radar selections that went 21-5 the past 2 years, 21-5 against the spread. And my picks were doing extremely well going into bowl season, at least. And I had at one point totaled up after the end of the regular season and the championship weekend, conference championships, I added up and hey, if you were going to put down $100 per game on my picks against the spread, you'd be up like $3,000 and money line $4,000. All right, Moose is here. Moose, appreciate you. Thank you so much for the contribution, sir. Merry Christmas, Mark, and Big Ten fans. Moose is primed for the Rose Bowl, which is coming up next Monday. We are 1 week away from the college football playoff doubleheader. We will, of course, announce our schedule, which I got to think is going to be something like a pregame, between games, and of course, postgame. I think that's what we've done in the past, and that worked out well. Last season, we did a watch party for both games. Now, I got to say, both videos got pulled, and we had a pretty good crowd on here, and we had like 30 or 35,000 views on those watch parties. But I thought by having a mic on, that the mic, this is a directional mic, therefore it picks up my voice. And if there's other noise in the room, it generally does not pick it up. It's a directional mic. And therefore I thought watching the TV that was several feet away would not pick up. But these YouTube sensors are so sensitive that we got pulled off for copyright. And I don't know that I want to mess around with that. So I think we're looking at pregame, between games, post game for the college football playoff. And what we're looking at this week, especially on Tuesday and Wednesday for sure, would be a late night call-in show with me. Otherwise, I'll be celebrating Christmas with my kids. They are coming in tomorrow, Tuesday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday with my beautiful children. So thank you for that, Moose. Daniel Henry, a member for 8 months. Thank you so much for that, Daniel. That's a good-looking icon you got right there. Happy holidays. Hit the like. Thank you so much for that, Daniel. We've got third and 8. What's up, Mark? Been a long time. I'm the one that used to be called Nate the Great. Nate the Great, thank you so much for the contribution. We appreciate you. And it's been a long time because of you. So not my fault, but Nate, it's great to have you here. Thank you so much for showing up on a Merry Christmas. We got the real MVP showing up here at the Voice of College Football.
Hey, Mark, how you doing this Christmas?
I am doing just fine. Merry Christmas. How are you?
I'm doing great. Merry Christmas to you, Mark, and hopefully all your family's doing well. I know you're going to celebrate tomorrow, but I still hope they're doing well.
Thank you. Same to you.
Nope. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. So I was going to ask you, you mentioned a pregame and a postgame show, but you might have to do a halftime show as well for this Alabama-Michigan game because I think it'll be over by halftime, Mark. I mean, we're going to see you remember Georgia-Michigan in 2021 after like the first 3 plays of the game where there was a clear and obvious talent disparity? I think that's what we're going to see. Jermaine Burton is on Alabama's wide receiver core, right?
Yes.
He also played for Georgia in 2021, correct?
He did.
And he torched Michigan secondary in 2021, if I recall correctly.
I can't say that I remember any specific Jermaine Burton plays, but I can certainly go look at the stats.
He caught a pretty big bomb in the first quarter to open things up.
Yes, he did. I do recall that. Yep.
Now, there was a few things you had an esteemed guest on named Steve Dace that I agreed with, okay? But I think a lot of things can be true at once. So Michigan could have their best team since 1997, Mark, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Alabama could have their worst team since 2008. That could be true as well. And this game still might not be close.
For as ridiculous as that sounds on the surface, I don't think that that's far off the mark.
Yeah, and I also heard him say, well, Alabama doesn't have Quentin Williams, Devontae Smith, Tua Tagovailoa, all these great Alabama players. So therefore, they're not as good as Alabama. Mark, Alabama's not playing 2021 Alabama, 2011 Alabama. They're playing 2023 Michigan, correct?
That's going to be the team on the field, yes.
Okay, so it doesn't matter what Alabama players they had in the past. It matters what Alabama players they have now and what Michigan players they have now. To me, saying all that stuff is like saying, well, Michigan doesn't have Aiden Hutchinson or Charles Woodson, so they got no chance. I don't understand it.
Well, I think you're both making your points clear, and I don't think that they're ridiculous. You're making the point that you're just making that, yes, if we listed the best football teams of the last 15 years, and we were listing the top 50, let's say, Alabama would take up 15 of those spots. Every Alabama team would be in those 50 spots somewhere. And this team could be, let's say, the 30th best team of the last 15 years. But this Michigan team could be the best Michigan team, and it could be the 45th best team of the last 15 years. I think his point is that those are all-time great Alabama athletes, and he does not believe that the players that are filling those job positions are as good as their predecessors, that this quarterback's not a vintage Alabama quarterback, that those D tackles and nose tackles do not compare with the guys that he mentioned. So he's making that point.
And that's a valid point, Mark. The problem is I don't think that matters at all. I just don't think it matters as significantly as he thinks it does.
I also don't think it's quite as clear as that, because much of the reputation that we now see with those players, not two is a different deal because of the quarterback position and because of us seeing them in the spotlight and looking at the numbers constantly versus, let's say, a defensive tackle, that much of their legacy and legendary status at Alabama was earned by dominating playoff games and then winning a championship. So we may think, and college football history may think, and probably will think much differently and view differently some Alabama players a month from right now than it does right now.
Right. I completely agree. And Mark, if Alabama plays the way they did against Auburn and Arkansas, I believe Alabama will lose this game, Mark. And I don't think it'll be competitive. But Mark, if the Alabama team that shows up and plays Georgia shows up, then I think Alabama rolls. I mean, this idea to me that since they were close against Auburn and since they were close against Arkansas means Alabama's not going to be prepared or not going to show up as well as they did, I don't get it. Why don't we take the last result they played, which is against their best opponent in Georgia, and we say, hey, that should be the starting point of the conversation. Why are we taking results from like 3 months ago against Arkansas and USF to determine Alabama how good they are? I don't get it. That would be like saying, well, Michigan struggled against Maryland, so they've got no chance.
Yes. So again, two things can be true, or two approaches can be valid. And one for me is that while I like to evaluate every team in terms of a ranking on the entire season, because it's a resume ranking, that doesn't mean that's how I approach predicting or my expectation of the game. My expectation of the game on the Alabama side has much less to do, or is basically inconsequential, what happened in September versus what I know this team to be now. That impacts my review of the season as a resume ranking, but does not impact how I believe the teams will play in a week from now. I also got to say, if you look at Nick Saban's tenure, it has almost always, no, let me correct that. It has always taken a Herculean, all-time great team and great talent to beat him. Like, he's just not losing to run-of-the-mill college football playoff teams. You have to be an all-time great or all-time talented team, circa Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, and that Clemson crew that had one of the great defensive lines in the history of college football, the 2014 Ohio State, Zeke Elliott, Michael Thomas, the Bosa's, the whole deal. You have to have, those are the only teams that have beaten him.
Correct. And this might be my favorite comment I've read today, Mark, from Moose. I don't get it either. Bama beats Georgia by 3, and now all of a sudden they're elite. Can we just what? What does that even mean? Is Georgia no good now, Mark? Can you help rationalize this comment for me from Moose? I like Moose. He seems like a great guy, but I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, this Michigan Alabama tug of war among these fan bases is just a pleasure for me to kick back and see this go back and forth. Yeah, they beat Georgia. And suddenly, I guess Georgia's not a really good football team, although they would probably be the Vegas favorite if we had an 8-team tournament.
Right. And I'll say something that was said on Josh Pate's speaker series he's doing, Mark. And people may call me an SEC homer for saying this, Mark, but I think the 2 best teams played in Atlanta, Georgia 3 weeks ago.
Oh, I think they did too.
So, and I've got something else to say. I saw a comment from Mike Ford a few weeks ago that said Ole Miss and Penn State are basically the same team. And he acted like that was a ridiculous comment, and Penn State is way above Ole Miss. What do you think about that, Mark?
Yeah, well, they're much different teams stylistically, but you mean in terms of when you add it all together, the quality of the team. Yeah, they're similar. They're pretty similar. I would tend to take Penn State, but they're on the same level.
Absolutely. Right. That's all I said. That's all I said is Ole Miss equals Penn State.
Yeah.
And Moose came back and said they're not elite this year. That's my point. I guess Alabama's not elite this year, Mark. If Alabama isn't elite, then I guess nobody's elite this year because Alabama's got the best win in the country. So, does that make sense to you? Nobody's elite this year. Just nobody's had any good wins.
It all depends
Nobody's
on
played anybody
to be elite. If there is a different category of elite every year, and there has to be somebody elite. Like if you were able to list all the teams in the country 1 through 133, and you always said, well, the top 4 or 5 are always elite, then there's always going to be an elite. But if you think that some years there are no elite teams, somebody's still going to win a national championship. And so, yes, maybe there are no elite teams. Michigan has not proven to be able to play at an elite level nationally, and they have that opportunity in a week to show us that they are something different than what they've been.
Right. But they're going to have to prove it. And that's what I don't understand is the Michigan fans' perspective that they've already done enough to prove that they're better than everybody else. Like I saw somebody say that there's an SEC superiority problem, and that's why they hate on Alabama and stuff. I'm like, what does that mean? SEC's been the best conference. There's people that still think the Big Ten's the best conference this year, Mark. And that don't make sense to me.
Okay, so Moose is saying Michigan beat number 2 Ohio State, 11-0 Ohio State. So that is the proof that Michigan is an elite team.
So that proves that. But Alabama beat a team with a better record and that was higher ranked on a neutral site compared to at home. But yet they're not elite. Do I have that right?
I think this goes back to Alabama lost to Texas, which, of course, we have no Michigan game to compare that to, really. And so Alabama played that game at a time when they had yet to find their stride. And people, again, they're going to criticize me for saying this, but they have to understand where this is coming from. There's a difference between giving credit to the game winner, the winner of the game, and giving credit to that and saying that's completely valid and it counts, but also acknowledging that teams change from roughly September 10th to here we are at the end of December, 3.5 months later, that teams change. And Alabama is a better football team than they were then. Michigan, I don't know if they're a better football team. They seem to be about the same football team. And also just understand that Michigan fans may get offended by this, but until it is proven, why would you not trust a process, a coach, and a system, and a talent level that we have seen over and over and over and over and over for 15 years deliver in the clutch?
Correct. I absolutely, completely agree with everything you said, Mark. I mean, I just can't understand it.
And I was told by a dependent fanatic, yes, there I put it on the screen, that I need to tread lightly because Michigan beat Ohio State. I don't know. Okay, that means yes, Michigan's a really good team. I think Ohio State's a really good team. I still think Ohio State's better than Michigan, but I get they lost to them. And what I think doesn't matter, doesn't uh, override what happened on the field. And let's forget what I think. Michigan won the game, so therefore they're technically better than Ohio State, but that doesn't mean that there can't be gaps between numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And Michigan might be the third best team in the country. They might be. They might be the best team in the country. They're going to have to show it. But they might be the third best team in the country. But we've seen the third best team in the country lose to the best team in the country by 20 points.
Gotcha. And I want to address something else I saw from Big Ten Nation about you, Mark, okay? I saw you released a video that had stats between Michigan and Alabama. And Mark, I guess if you just show numbers on a screen and put them into context, then that means you're an SEC homer. So welcome to the club, Mark.
This is unbelievable. Thank you for bringing that up. So what I attempted to do, everyone that did not see this video, is, and if I find the time, which I probably won't, but anyway, do the same thing with Texas and Washington. But anyway, Alabama and Michigan. And yes, I could just post all the numbers, not say anything about the games, but I watched a majority of these games. So I had some things to say about the games. But generally, all I did was post the national rankings of, let's start with a category, the Alabama rushing offense against the Michigan rushing defense. And then didn't just take that as the end all be all, then went to the best opponents that the Alabama rush defense played as, or the rush offense of Alabama playing as rush defenses, and to see how well did they do against the very best rush defenses in the country, and then take the Michigan rush defense. How well did they do against the very best? And all I did is lay out the statistics. And I couldn't imagine, I just couldn't believe, even when you are the utmost and the most forthright, as unbiased and neutral and presenting just sheer facts, that there are people that are this, I guess, this offended, this petty. I hope they're not that stupid. I don't know if I wish that they were that stupid, or I wish that they were that, lacked that much character. I don't know which is worse, but could be that moronic. I am being kind calling these people idiots and morons. So Merry Christmas to them, but they are complete morons to challenge my analysis of this matchup based on sheer statistics that I am not controlling or manipulating in any such way. And I'm actually trying to dig deep to show best and worst performances against best competition in those categories to give it some. And I'm not saying these things are ironclad, they can't be challenged in any way, but they can't be challenged in that they are simply numbers and statistics that are factual. Yes, the comments to this video are some of the most idiotic I've ever seen.
Yeah, Mark. I mean, it maybe the numbers go against the narrative that Michigan's the best team in the country. Maybe their conclusion should have changed based on the numbers and not challenge the actual numbers themselves. Because once you realize all Michigan's played is basically 10 cream puffs, one decent team in Iowa, and two good teams, good to great teams in Penn State and Ohio State, the numbers slightly change their context. Like Michigan's, what is it? Their points per game on defense, they allow 9.5 points per game. Come on, Mark. They're not 20-21 Georgia on defense. I know that. You know that. I know that. You know that. Everyone should know that. But the number would suggest they are. Does that make sense to you, Mark, what I just laid out there?
Sure. Oh my goodness, that Georgia defense. As soon as they shut out KJ Jefferson and Rocket Sanders, who then went on to win 9 games and beat Penn State in a bowl game, whew, I thought, my goodness, that's a wrecking crew. Nobody else is shutting out that team. Like that's whole other level. Some of the best we've ever seen. Yes.
Right. I see you going through the video and your glasses as you're talking.
I got you. Oh, I was going to say, I didn't think I pulled that out. I was looking for the video because I wanted to see these comments.
Yeah, I know Alabama struggled against Auburn. I know Alabama struggled against Arkansas. I know Alabama struggled against USF. But those versions of Alabama isn't going to show up in the Rose Bowl. If they do, then they're going to lose by like 40. But I think the absolute best version of Alabama will show up, and I believe the absolute best version of Michigan will show up. And I believe that the best version of Alabama is significantly better than the best version of Michigan. Michigan hasn't proven nothing all season that they haven't proven last year or the year before that. If anything, if you want to look at the Penn State and Ohio State games, Mark, I can argue that they've slightly declined from last year's team, Mark.
Yeah, well, they certainly dominated Ohio State in the fourth quarter last year in Columbus versus this year against what some people thought was a worse Ohio State team because of the quarterback play. Obviously, that was a great game, went down to the wire. I thought it was a better Ohio State team myself. And I know that if Michigan wins this game, that people are going to take everything I had to say leading up to this game. And let's face it, I'm going to pick Alabama to win this game. And so I can state that right now, even though I'll give an official prediction on a score at some point, that sure, people will make fun of me. And that's fine. That goes with the territory. I will get the prediction wrong. If I get the prediction correct, obviously people will shut up and they'll scatter and I won't hear anything. But yeah, this is just amuses me beyond. Mark, somebody stated there. Did I pull this up on the screen? Yeah, there it is. I probably need to blow it up, but somebody is stating there. Mark, JJ's stats are so skewed compared to other quarterbacks because he did not play in the fourth quarter in the first 8 games. Well, JJ's stats that I posted were also efficiency numbers. They were not total statistics, meaning total yards, total touchdowns. They were efficiency numbers. Therefore, they would not have been impacted in a negative way by not playing in the fourth quarter.
Also, I liked about that comment is that presupposes Jalen Milroe played every game and played all the quarters. He did miss a game in which he didn't play 4 quarters.
Yes. You know, John Adams, go ahead.
I was going to say, if he played that game, I would imagine his numbers would be much better than what they are now.
Yeah, I just believe that efficiency numbers in the passing game are so much more valid. And so all those numbers were efficiency numbers. They weren't total yardage numbers in the passing game, either pass offense or pass defense. I love this comment. John Adams says, one other factor you might want to consider that is not tangible is that Michigan's determination in facing adversity, and if they have been through this year, is also something. Well, you know what? What you're saying is true. That is a factor, but that can't be measured. And what about Alabama's determination and their fight and their will and their pride? And we can't factor any of that into it.
Mark, this is a playoff game, right? This isn't a regular season game against like a Temple, right?
Yeah, I think Alabama's going to actually have something to say about it and actually show up with some determination themselves.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Oh, Samir says, I guess that's his handle. You know that if his precious Buckeyes were playing in the college football playoff, there was no way he'd bag on the mostly same terrible offenses they played. He'd figure out a way to praise them. I would be still presenting the same statistics. I don't know what to tell you. People either don't watch enough to know that I cut it straight, or they're offended. People get offended by just facts and logic and statistics. And I guess if I could test this out next season, maybe I'll come on here and I'll pick a team. It'll have to be an elite team. Maybe it'll be Michigan, and everything they do, I will just praise it as being the greatest thing, and that they're just elite and without question the best team in the country, and see what kind of response I get to that. I don't know.
Well, Mark, that'll only probably last 2 weeks in the next season because they got to play Texas next season.
Yeah, they do. It's similar to, I had a conversation with our buddy from Irish Breakdown, Brian Driscoll, this week. And we'll finish up here and get to the other calls. But it was similar to leading into the Notre Dame game, where I said I had absolutely no issue with any Notre Dame fan that was super confident. No issue because I didn't see a large separation between the two teams, even though historically Ohio State was so much better. Had no issue with any Notre Dame fan who was confident. I also had no issue with any Notre Dame fan who said Marcus Freeman's going to be phenomenal and he's a great coach and Ryan Day hasn't proven anything and Notre Dame's overtaking Ohio State I simply said, well, that remains to be seen, but there is indication that could happen. The two things that were incredibly insane were the people who guaranteed, I don't even know what that means, but guaranteed that Notre Dame was going to win, which were all sorts of Notre Dame fans that guaranteed that Notre Dame was going to win. It's ridiculous. I don't know what the ramifications are for guaranteeing things that don't happen. I don't know if we maybe should cut your hand off or something. I don't understand. Big deal. You guarantee. I could guarantee every game for the rest of the season and miss half of them. Big deal. What did that just prove? Nothing. Guaranteeing. And then people saying that Notre Dame had a better program than Ohio State the last 15, 20, 25 years, which, oh my word, it's not even worth mentioning. And so delusional fans drive me crazy when they just don't have or choose to use a functional brain. I refuse to believe that God created this many stupid people. I just believe that people are so blinded by their fandom that they just choose not to use their brain.
Interesting way to put it, Mark. The final thing I'll say before this is, did you see the newest Simpsons episode, Mark?
No, I did not. I don't
Well,
think
they took it
over 25 years.
Well, they made a dig at Jim Harbaugh in it, which was very interesting. They had an academic center, and it was called like the Jim Harbaugh Institutional for Cheating, or Imbalanced Advantages, I think it was what it was called. And they had Bart Simpson teach a class, said Intro to Cheating 101. So It was a nice little dig at Michigan I thought the audience should know about. Even The Simpsons thinks you cheated, Michigan fans.
Good stuff.
But anyway, Mark, that's all I got for you. I'm kind of disappointed the Michigan fans haven't come up with anything other than 4th and 31, Arkansas, we believe. That's all I got for you. Fight on to the less than 1%ers.
Thanks to Real. And let me say this for any Michigan fan or any college football fan that is all over Alabama for how bad they looked against Auburn, how poorly they played, and that they should have lost. I'm right here too. Go look at my video after the Alabama-Auburn game. I went nuts and went crazy about Auburn. If they would have played some kind of reasonable defense, they could have played like a picket fence at the goal line. There's no way they should have given that up. Alabama would not be in this playoff. You can go on and on about whether because Alabama basically survived a miracle against Auburn or played crappy against the likes of South Florida and Arkansas, lost to Texas by 10, Florida State should have been in the playoff. There's all sorts of reasons that are actually viable points to make to say Alabama should not be in this playoff. But that doesn't in any way impact how they're going to play in the playoff. Those are two entirely different things. In 2017, Alabama lost by 2 scores in the Iron Bowl, did not go to the SEC championship game. Many people thought, including me, that they should not be in the playoff. That did not impact how they played in the playoff, and they won the national championship. In 2011, Alabama lost to LSU at home, scoring only 6 points. They did not win their division. They did not win the conference. They lost a game. They, in many ways, should not have been playing in the BCS championship game against LSU in a rematch. Somebody else should have been given the opportunity, that team being most likely Oklahoma State was the best candidate. Well, that did not happen. Alabama was given that opportunity. So whether you thought Alabama should have been given that opportunity or not, Alabama was afforded that opportunity. And what happened? They won a national championship. I actually think we need to look back at that season. I know we reviewed it at the time, and we will get back to this in the offseason where we will review all the championships. I think I have awarded somebody else a national championship in 2011. Well, for one thing, LSU, they get a split national championship because they split the 2 games. They actually had a better record than Alabama, better strength of schedule. I think it was Stanford beat Oklahoma State. No, Oklahoma State beat Stanford in the Fiesta Bowl. It must have been Oregon State, or not Oregon State, Oregon. Anyway, we'll look at that at some other point. And before we take this call, this cracks me up too. I don't mind. Please correct me when I misspeak in some way, but certainly believe that most of the time, if not, all the time, if I'm spitting out stuff, then I know what I'm talking about. I know who I'm talking about, but I misspeak. So Samir, who made that other comment, says, how does a Buckeye fan, I don't know what it has to do with being a Buckeye fan, how does a Buckeye fan think Mike Sanders still got a pick 6 in the game? Yes, it was. So I watched the game. I remember if we replayed that Ohio State Michigan game, I bet I remember 90% of those plays. I just in the moment, I'm speaking off the cuff, stated the name Mike Sanders still instead of Will Johnson. So I made a mistake. I know what happened in the game. I know the players, but I stated Sanders still instead of Will Johnson. All right. Jim W. says, Mark predicted Alabama 27-23. So Steve Dace, Michigan Podcast, pushed me to a prediction. That was my prediction on the fly. Him just saying, Mark, we need a pick. I just said, Alabama 27-23. Jim W. is predicting Michigan 45-17. I will make a more accurate prediction than that. All right, let's keep it rolling here. Appreciate everyone being patient. We got Nate the Great.
What's up, Mark?
What is going on?
Not much, man. Happy Merry Christmas.
Yes, Merry Christmas to you. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Doing good. I mean, I do agree with the real said. What you said about Michigan, and although I'm a Michigan fan too, what do I expect out of Michigan the next Monday? I mean, as a Michigan fan, I think they need to prove me that they belong in playoffs. As a Michigan fan, in my opinion.
Wow.
I'm being true, straight facts because they have now their own two currently, but now I think Bama has more elite players coming from Michigan fan, and I'm totally honest with that. But you have to know, Michigan develops 3 stars or 4 stars into 5 stars because they have the, really good development, staff. Sorry, I forgot the word. But anyways, yeah, I just think it's gonna be a really good game, in my opinion. Like I think it's gonna be like around the score that you predicted, like in the mid 20s.
Yeah, don't hold me to that prediction because most likely that's going to change.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Nate the Great, could you give us a fairly long list of Michigan 3-stars that perform at a 5-star level?
Sure.
You don't need to right this second,
no,
but
no. Yeah, I get it. But I think the point I'm making is like, you don't have to have all 5 stars to be elite, and that's my point. And
well, the history would say otherwise.
I know that, I agree, but I'm just saying in this day and age, I mean.
No, I'm not talking about ancient history. I'm talking about recent history. I'm talking about all of history.
Okay.
Until proven otherwise,
Gotcha.
a team with a talent composite not in the top 10 has not won a national championship.
Right. And I agree. I wasn't even born in 97. But I don't know. Now I think Michigan will win. In my opinion, I'm not going to say any score prediction because I don't want to jinx it.
When's the last time you predicted Michigan to lose a game? I'm just curious.
Actually, I probably during the Down Brown days, to be honest.
Okay.
So 2016-ish years.
Okay. I'm just curious, and I'm not picking on you. I'm just basically, I reserve myself in listening to people's predictions when they're a fan of a team and they're obviously making, like, I would want to hear from a Michigan fan who is predicting Alabama to win or an Alabama fan who is predicting Michigan to win. I would like to hear one of those two.
Now, if I'm being real, I don't want this to happen, but I do think Alabama has the edge to win, but in my book, Michigan's going to win. That's my book, but I do think Bama has the edge to win that game. But who knows? We'll all see. We will all see on Monday. I mean, it's how many days away? Like 8?
1 week.
1 week, yeah. Man, I can't wait. I'm hoping for a really good game as a college football fan and Michigan fan. Now, I'm just really excited. I wish it was tomorrow it was started.
Well, how much do you like to watch college football?
Scale out of 10, 100.
Okay. Well, then you got plenty of games to watch between now and then.
That is true. I mean, I'm not doing very good in pick'ems.
No, a lot of people aren't, including myself.
I mean, I thought I used to be a good pick'em picker, and looks like my streak went down. But yeah, I just really want a good game, like I said, and I do think we're gonna get that. Now, if you were like Harbaugh, well, you're not, but like I mean, what does Harbaugh or Michigan in general and need to prepare precisely like on because I think in my opinion, my theory, I think Michigan over the 2 years they haven't prepared enough to show up to the games. I mean last year was last year, but
They haven't prepared enough for
like
the playoffs.
well, I
Do you
mean like
think
they always choke in the playoffs. Like people say
that doesn't mean they're not preparing.
well, that's what I think, but I mean, many people think otherwise, but that's what I think. But who knows? But yeah, I just hope they, come out mean and gritty and old fashioned. I just
Well, they could wear some leather helmets, maybe. That would be old fashioned.
well, I mean old fashioned like hate, but but I wish I know the Michigan 97s and 2000s are long gone, but I wish that mentality and attitude was in Michigan's team today, which I think it is, but I want like 100%, not like 75. But I just want them to win for just get over that hump in the playoffs. But if they don't, they don't. I mean, it's a game. Game of trenches. I mean, what more I can lose?
All right, Nate. Well, thanks for calling. I appreciate it.
Yeah, have a good one.
Yeah, have a good one. All right, we will keep it moving here at the Voice of College Football. I apologize for not getting into the super chats. We will do that now. One thing Nate said that I understand this line of thinking. I don't agree with it. If Michigan loses 50-0, you will not hear me say that they did not belong in the playoff. They went undefeated. They won the Big Ten championship. They earned a playoff spot. So I don't think they have to justify their playoff spot. That will just show that they, again, were not good enough to win a game in the playoff, but they earned a playoff spot. Absolutely. Subscribe to our SEC channel. At least head on over there and check it out. We have recent posts on Alabama, LSU, Arkansas, Ole Miss, South Carolina, Georgia, and others. So check out the SEC channel. The link's in the description section of this and every video. You can check out our SEC channel. Also, our Big 12 channel. All right. Super chats before I take the next call. Let's get to them. We've got Moose with this one. Moose, thank you so much for that. All I want for Christmas is a national championship. And Moose, I get it. You're a college football diehard. You're a Michigan diehard. A national championship goes way beyond what most people can hope for a typical lousy Christmas gift. National championship. When you have not won one since 1997, I know Alabama fans want a national championship. They're rooting for a national championship, but it's only been since 2020. And they had one in 2017 and 2015 and 2012 and 11. So it's just ridiculous. Dan, thank you so much for the 5 spot right here at the Voice of College Football. JJ will be the best football player in the Rose Bowl. Kids going to play like Steve Young. Michigan defense will show Millie's inexperience. All right. Well, he's not inexperienced, so I don't know how you show that. He's played Georgia, Texas, Auburn in the Iron Bowl on the road. He's played an SEC schedule, including Ole Miss and others. Just think about the impact of the first two names and defenses I dropped: Georgia, Texas. So he's not inexperienced at this point. He is not an inexperienced quarterback. There are tons of examples of first-year starters who won national championships. We had an inexperienced quarterback win the national title in 2014. We had a first-year starter in 2015. We had a inexperienced player step in overtime in 2017, win the national championship. We had a true freshman in 2018. We had, let's see, 2021, all those other years since, when looking at 19, 20, 21, 22, the last 4 years, I would call all of those players at quarterback highly experienced. So thank you so much for the comment, Dan. And Michigan may need, I do believe that they need J.J. McCarthy to be a running J.J. McCarthy. They need to have him be a scrambling J.J. McCarthy, a J.J. McCarthy who gets outside the pocket to deliver throws, to buy himself time, allow receivers to get open, and also a J.J. McCarthy who breaks, contain, gets outside the pocket to run, and then also designed runs that they need to call up. This may have to be the biggest running quarterback performance out of J.J. McCarthy in his career. All right, let's get to it. We got Golden Playbook on the line.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
All right.
So I got a few things basically to say. I don't really know how you what you think about the Oregon State and Notre Dame game, but I have a lot of confidence in a way because I've been, kind of advocating for Steve Jelly to get a shot.
Yeah.
And I know that we lost a lot of players in the portal. It's kind of a weird game, but I don't know. I just feel a little confident. I feel like we're gonna win, and play a good game. So I just have a lot of confidence. And then obviously you seen that we hired the LSU offensive coordinator.
Mike Denbrock.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty good hire.
I do too.
And then that wide receivers coach as well.
Where did he come from? LSU?
Wisconsin. His name is Mike Brown, I believe.
Okay.
So yeah. But yeah, there's really nothing. I mean, I'm pretty excited to see what we do because if you notice, we have not been able to beat our OSU curse. But hopefully we get the job done. We get 10 wins. And really, that's not a bad season if you really think about it. I mean, we're 9-3 right now, and we win this bowl game. We're 10-3, which that's not bad for a second-year head coach, in my opinion. So, and then also I wanted to talk about obviously the Alabama and Michigan game, which is going to be interesting to watch. Now I think Michigan's a good team, but I feel like Alabama, of course they got more talent, and I know a lot of Michigan fans are probably gonna get mad or whatever, but But yeah, I just feel like Alabama's got the more talent. They have a lot of experience in these games, and but I do think it will be a good game. It's going to be an interesting game. I think JJ McCarthy is definitely going to have to play perfect, but yeah, I think it'll be a good game. But Jalen Milrow is probably the most like shiftiest quarterback that they faced. Um, and it's definitely going to be interesting. I think it's going to be an interesting game. Um, even though I do think that Alabama's got overall more talent, of course, I think it's still going to be a good game. If even though um, so Michigan is what like they're 0-2 in the playoff right now, but if they can win this game, that's going to be really huge, for them, and it's going to be an interesting game. And then also Texas versus Washington, it's a pretty interesting, Final Four. But yeah, I'm looking forward to just seeing how Michigan matches up, you know, um, against the Alabama team.
Yeah, certainly that's a big question. Jalen Milrow is a completely different player than anything Michigan's faced this year. Now, or Alabama's defense is not going to be surprised in any way or have to adjust to JJ McCarthy's style. Jaden Daniels and KJ Jefferson, two that come to mind right off the top of my head. Trying to think who was playing at Texas A&M at quarterback after Connor Weigman got hurt. Don't think we had a mobile quarterback there, but just Jaden Daniels and KJ Jefferson playing those games for those two teams that Alabama faced. So JJ McCarthy's not going to look like anything different or special for Bama as opposed to what Michigan's going to see in Jalen Milrow. The closest they've seen to that is probably Gavin Wimsatt of Rutgers.
Right.
That's the only player I can come up with who's got anything close to that type of mobility. And that's not a good comparison.
Right. Yeah. And, there's a lot of people that are not really, giving Michigan a chance, which I know a lot of Michigan fans. Obviously, I got family that are Michigan fans and then obviously people that my dad know, they basically don't have really that much faith, in Michigan to win. But I guess we'll see what happens. It's going to be an interesting game. It's still going to be a good game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. Um, but yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting game to watch. And so yeah, and then obviously you got Texas and Washington, which that game is going to be pretty good. So yeah, it's overall I'm not really mad about the Final Four. I think it's a pretty good Final Four. Um, so, but yeah, that's basically all I got. I definitely think this bowl game against Oregon State, it's going to be really interesting because again, Oregon State has lost a lot of players. Well, they've only lost their quarterback, I believe, right? Or
Yeah, I don't know who else. The running back was Damian Martinez was supposed to be out, but he's playing the last I heard. And yes, DJ Uyangalele is in the transfer portal and he's spending his time visiting campuses. So he's not playing. And Aiden Childs, their backup quarterback, I don't believe he's playing. He's gone to Michigan State.
oh
So I don't know who they're playing at quarterback.
yeah, yeah, I heard that Mike Brown was bringing in some our new wide receiver coach. He was bringing in some wide receivers from Wisconsin, but I don't know if they're going to be playing at all. So it's going to be interesting. And Angeli, by the way, nothing against Hartman. I just don't feel like Hartman, like, he didn't really scramble as much. I don't feel like I don't really think he was really a great quarterback. I think he was like average. He's definitely an average quarterback.
Well, he's not an average quarterback, and hopefully no Notre Dame fans were expecting Sam Hartman to be scrambling. That's not what he is. But
Right.
I agree with you. He did not have a great season. I expected him to be a little bit better. The Louisville game was an ugly one. Now, I do think he's a really good quarterback, and he's a top 15 quarterback in the country. So he's not an average quarterback. Was he elite? No. And he's certainly not a scrambler.
Right. Yeah, I just don't feel like he had like quick hands. I mean, he was a good thrower, but I feel like Angeli's got a lot quicker hands, you know. But I guess we'll have to see what happens. Um,
All right, man. Well, thanks for calling.
Alrighty, thank you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you. Have a great night.
All right.
And Merry Christmas to all. We have been asking on occasion, we've been keeping this list for quite some time, I'd say 3 or 4 years, where shoot me an email at MarkRogersTV@gmail. Tell me your favorite team. We're keeping a list. And tell me your college football story, if you would like. Meaning, we got a email coming in. I will keep these anonymous, but we've got a certain Penn State fan who wrote in and said, Penn State my entire life, told me when his dad graduated, how long he's had season tickets, when he was born, that Matt Barr was one of his favorite players, and that he ended up being born on Matt Barr's birthday and named after Matt Barr. Loves the show. Great to hear from a Penn State fan who wrote in. So again, give me your stories there at the Voice of College Football, MarkRogersTV@gmail. Then we've got a fan story coming in from a viewer who says, wanted to weigh in on your poll. Michigan fan, love all your channels, love your analysis. Huge Steve Dace fan, but I've moved over. Thoroughly enjoy many of your other team channels and analysts. Total college football nerd. Love the deep dives. Love the business side of college athletics. And basically went through his story. So we appreciate that coming in from a Michigan fan who responded. And let me check out one other one that recently came in here from a Michael, who grew up in Texas, fell in love with Michigan's helmets, became a Michigan fanatic in the 70s. He has seen them play a number of times. He listed all those out. Talked about naming his son Brady after. Joel's trying to figure out who he would have named his son after, but it was Brady. Massive Jim Harbaugh supporter and fan. So it's great to hear from the fans and great to hear from all of you in regards to how you became a fan of your particular team and what your story is. And so tell me your favorite team and give us your college football story, MarkRogersTV@gmail. And let's check out our count, and then we'll take our call coming up here. So our current count is, let me find it. We will post it here. The heck is it? Where is that? Oh, there we go. So let's see. Our current count looks like there we go. We're taking account of the rooting interests of our Voice of College Football community. Tell me your story at MarkRogersTV at Gmail. Here's the current count. Are you ready? Michigan 80, Ohio State 70. Then it drops off. Miami. There you see Georgia, Nebraska, USC, Notre Dame are all tied. Alabama, Clemson, Florida State, Michigan State, West Virginia, Oregon, Penn State, LSU, Iowa, Auburn, Texas A&M, Kentucky's there with Wisconsin, Arkansas, Florida, Texas, and there you see the rest of the tallies there of the fans that have voiced their fandom. And we've got a couple group of 5 votes there from Colorado State and San Diego State as well. And once again, there you see the count of the fan base here at the Voice of College Football. So what does all that total? As I eyeball it, 300, maybe. So a lot of other people need to chime in. Would love to get something close to an accurate count. I'm just mighty interested in our fan count. So tell me your story, how you became a college football fan, whatever else you want to tell me. And give me your favorite team there at the Voice of College Football. Would also like to hear how you found us and how long you've been watching as well. All right, let's take a call from Chris. Chris, Merry Christmas. How are you doing tonight?
Merry Christmas, Mark. How are you?
I am doing just fine. How are you?
Pretty good. What is it you want to ask me, or maybe I should ask you? I'm not sure. I was waiting for a while. I kind of lost my train of thought. One question I guess I might have for you. Do you think that and I'm not trying to press the issue. I mean, I understand there's a lot to weigh into consideration for any title, I guess, but are there really any disputed championships? I kind of think that's something people are kind of making up when their team doesn't necessarily follow through, maybe. Or you said LSU in 2011. I mean, I don't know, Mark. That's kind of stretching it, isn't it?
Stretching it how?
Well, I mean, I know they beat Alabama, but not by much. And then when they got beat by a fairly, I don't know, 21-0. I mean, wasn't like they barely lost, or not that really matters, but I guess in my opinion.
Does it matter or doesn't it matter? Because many times you call up and when I bring up scores, and that's a whole other conversation when I bring up scores,
right?
You tell me that they don't matter. It doesn't matter how much a team beats another team by.
I said, well, it doesn't matter to me. I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but to me, no, it doesn't matter at all. But I mean, I don't know. Does it matter? It doesn't matter to me how bad a team loses, but I'm not saying it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me. I'm asking you more. I guess I'm asking you more than I'm telling you. I'm asking you what you think.
So, for example, I am just going to select one season that we could have a conversation about. 2007. You don't think that we could have a debate or there is a disputed national championship there?
Do I think there is a disputed? No, not really.
You don't?
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's always going to be people that are going to maybe make the argument that maybe Georgia should have played LSU, but I don't know that necessarily matters, the fact that they didn't play. So, I mean,
we finished the season with 2, 4, 6. We had 6, 7, 11-2 teams.
Yeah.
And 1 12-1 team.
Yeah, I know. Well, no, 2 of them, right? Weren't there 2 of them?
Was there 2? Let me see if
I don't know. There's Hawaii.
Kansas 12-1.
Hawaii.
Yes, Hawaii finished down at 12-1 at number 19. Yes, if you want to take the group of 5 into account.
Well,
to me, that's a disputed national championship.
It probably is, but I don't know that there was anything wrong with how they determined the champion, though. I mean, there's kind of 2 different arguments to be made. Maybe another team could have risen. I don't know. But why didn't they? The teams that should have done it really didn't, in my opinion, pull the line. I mean, bring a team into the conversation. Doesn't matter to me. West Virginia, is that one that you think should be in there maybe? Or, I mean, they were good.
I'm just saying that, okay, on one hand, we've got a structure, and Currently, that's a 14 playoff. And at this point, it
Well-
was, of course, a BCS championship game. So LSU won it fair and square. They were selected to go to the championship game at 10-2 or 11-2.
Right.
And they won the game fair and square. So I am no way want to take away their national championship. Not that I've got the power to do so, but I do believe that it's a disputed national championship.
Well, to some extent it might be, but it's not. Maybe I'm using the wrong words. I don't know. I wouldn't take anything away from LSU just because.
I'm not taking away from them, but I'm saying, why doesn't USC have a claim to this national championship? And other teams, they would be the best example, USC, since they won the Pac-12 and they won a dominating Rose Bowl.
Didn't they lose 2 games?
Yeah,
I mean,
just like the national champion lost 2 games. Yes.
well, again, it's like splitting hairs, I guess, Mark. But the 2 games that LSU lost were in overtime. Not only were they in overtime, they're in triple overtime. I think it went into where they kind of like the extra innings sort of thing in baseball, where a team emerged victorious, but it wasn't. I mean, there's almost an asterisk to each one of them. I mean, both of those teams, I think, were pretty good. Arkansas and Kentucky. I don't know. I don't really think it's a disputed title at all, but if you want to use that, I guess, as evidence, go ahead. Be my guest. But I don't think there was a disputed title. No, I guess I'd have to say no. In my opinion, there isn't.
Yeah, to me, that's
Okay, well,
a disputed championship.
okay, well, good. Then we agree on it. Then maybe I don't know, but so is that one of the arguments you have against? That was a season, I think, in which any number of teams could have advanced, and for whatever reason, none of them did, and so it was almost like, not to pick on Ohio State, but they were almost like an afterthought to the thing. I think they'd already gotten beaten. They didn't have they were just kind of sitting, laying low for a while, and earned the opportunity, sure, but I think it was one of those things where they were almost lucky to even have the opportunity, wasn't it? Weren't they at number 8 or something like that?
I guess any team that would have been given the opportunity would have been lucky in a sense. Yeah, so Ohio State, when they finished the season, were, I believe, number 7 in the country. And on championship weekend, the night that Ohio State beat Michigan, a number of teams lost. Plus, on championship weekend, a number of teams lost that vaulted Ohio State from 7 to 1. Didn't even vault them to number 2. It vaulted them all the way to number 1.
I guess I forgot about that. I forgot that they were the number 1 team, but it doesn't really matter. I just, I think they, not to get too nitpicky, I think they actually earned the opportunity. And my guess would be that they made the most of the opportunity. And so I don't know that we should say that LSU wasn't, the best team. I think they probably were. And you can say, well, it didn't include some of these other teams that maybe could have been deserving if they hadn't, but it always kind of seems to be that if they had done what they were supposed to do. I just kind of suspect that in those circumstances that there's really no argument really to be made against who actually took the championship. I just kind of think, and I don't
There
think
is an argument. I just laid one out, and I could lay out it more succinctly and more specifically, but I don't want to go into particulars. But we just laid out a list of teams that have qualifications that are similar to LSU's.
USC, I don't know, Mark. I mean, come on. I guess I kind of get to the.
What do you mean? What does that even mean? Come on. I could say LSU, come on. They lost 2 games. Why are they winning a national championship?
They didn't lose 1. They lost 2. I mean, they're kind of an afterthought.
Who's an afterthought?
They don't even really belong in the conversation, really.
You are, in one sentence, Chris, telling me that LSU is without doubt the national champion, and that's a valid decision. And then in the next, that lost 2 games, and then you're telling me in the next sentence that USC shouldn't even be considered with 2 losses.
Well, they could be considered for second place or something.
How does that make any sense?
No, they could be considered for second place or whatever it is they deserve, but not for the number 1 spot. No.
What did LSU accomplish that Ohio State did not, or that USC did not?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of how you want to look at it, I guess. But, my guess would be, for one thing, they beat the number 1 team. I mean, that's one thing they did. I mean, in a title game, I mean, it's kind of what the championship is normally. I mean,
USC beat the team that beat Ohio State and USC beat them by 32 points.
Yeah, well, I understand that in the Rose Bowl, I guess, but I don't know, Mark. That's true. That's, I guess, a good point. But I saw the way that Ohio State didn't lose to Illinois as much as Illinois kind of, I don't know. It's kind of weird how Illinois beat them, but I mean, they did win. But if I remember correctly, Ohio State never got the ball to see if they could have. I mean, it was like one of those things where Illinois just kept running the ball until finally there was almost no time left, and to where, well, I mean, it almost made it impossible for Ohio State to show whether they could beat them or not, which I guess that's game strategy, and that's
Ohio State could not stop Illinois on the last drive to get the ball back. That's what happened. That's part of football. That's part of evaluating football. If the defense isn't good enough to get off the field to get the ball back to the offense and you lose the game, that's part of the evaluation.
Well, okay, so USC might have been a better team than Ohio State, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're any better than LSU. So even that point doesn't sync with my thinking.
Okay.
But whatever.
I'm not even arguing who's better than whom. I'm talking about the resumes are similar by a list of teams here.
I don't know. I don't really like arguing about these sorts of things. I kind of feel like what you're doing.
Did you call?
Well, come on, give me a break. I mean,
you don't, Chris, that might be the most amusing thing you have ever said in all these phone calls, in all these years of how many ever times that you called, which I appreciate all of your calls, that you actually just made the statement, I don't like to argue about any of these things.
I don't.
That's what just came out of your mouth.
Yeah,
Except
I know.
you pick up the phone and you call me to argue about these things.
No, that's not exactly true. I'm trying to make a point that you don't seem to want to hear.
Okay, which is?
Well, I've tried to make it before, and you always kind of tell me not to say it because you say you don't agree with it. So I know how to matriculate the whole thing. I mean, maybe
sometimes agree with certain things that you say and other things I don't agree with.
By my calculus, which I don't even know if that's the right word, LSU finishes first, and that should be the end of the argument right there. Oh, who's number one? Well,
because your system said it, that should be the end of the argument.
No, it's not even my system. It's something I think that probably is the right way to go. It doesn't necessarily, it might not appeal to everybody, but yeah, by the structure that I apply, which I think is a fair way to at least give an idea about who might be the number one team. It puts LSU number one. I mean, it means something. I'm not just doing it because I don't like USC. I would have put USC there if they would have been number one. I'm not trying to make it to where one team can't win.
Okay, there's something you need to understand, Chris, and that's that let's say USC was voted number one. Let's say they made the BCS championship game and they won, and LSU went and played another top team and they won, let's say, the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah.
I would be making the same point about LSU. It has nothing to do with LSU. Really has nothing to do with USC. It has to do with teams, a stack of teams having like criteria. Therefore, it's a disputed national championship.
It is to some extent, but it's not like, oh, one team definitely, I kind of think what you're doing is you're just trying to put a little spin on it to where all of a sudden, oh, maybe it is an LSU, maybe it's the other team, or whereas I don't know, I kind of think a person that's objective, and I'm not trying to make it sound like you're not, would say, well, maybe we should consider that those games went to overtime. Maybe we should consider that in triple overtime, you can't really strategize. They make you go for two. I mean, it kind of changes the dynamic in a way that I'm not going to say it prejudices the result, but in kind of a weird way, I'm not sure that LSU really lost to anybody that year. But yeah, the overtime rules made it to where one team came out ahead. It's kind of what happened. But
so you would like to go with ties? You would like us to go back to ties?
No, I don't really like overtime, but it doesn't. I don't get all upset about it. I mean, if
you don't like overtime, you don't like playoffs.
No, yeah, I don't particularly like overtime. I don't think it's really that necessary.
So you would like us to have tie games and to vote. No, you don't want us to vote for national championships. You want us to spit out a computer readout.
No, not even that. Yeah, I mean, BCS protocols seem to work pretty well. I mean, I know it wasn't your favorite, but I can't personally, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong about this. I honestly don't know of a BCS champion that was undeserving, but maybe that's just accidental. I mean, I'm not going to like make it like the BCS was so great that it always got the right result, but I can't really think of an example where there was a champion that didn't really deserve it.
And let me be clear about something, Chris, because I have been consistent about stating this in all the conversations we've ever had since you ever brought this topic up. I have never said that any of these teams that quote unquote won national championships were undeserving. I have simply said that there are other teams
As deserving?
as deserving.
See,
Yes.
that's, I don't know that I can really say that that's a fair statement because I don't think they are as deserving. But, you know, you're entitled to your opinion, though. That's fine. Your opinion matters, but I don't think that there was somebody has to take the trophy, you know, and I don't know that it's right really to say that one team maybe like I know the one that people sometimes bring up and maybe for good reason. I mean, I'm not going to USC in 2003, but I'm not really convinced that they were a better team necessarily. I mean, I think even you brought it up to some degree. I think you even kind of said that even with the loss to Kansas State, that Oklahoma might have actually been a better team. Now, I mean, you never really, I mean, I'm not necessarily saying, I almost kind of agree that USC probably should have been in the championship game that season. I actually kind of agree with that, but I don't necessarily think that they would have beaten LSU. So it's like, I don't really look at 2003 as an example of the BCS getting everything all wrong and, oh, it's terrible, and it put the team that didn't deserve it in it. And it's just an example of maybe two teams maybe with the same, I guess, what do you want to call it? I don't know.
Okay.
But I think it worked out okay because then the AP could vote for USC, and I don't see that that's a big issue. I mean, why should that make USC mad? Why should they be mad? I mean, they won a championship. Why are they upset about it? I mean, they should be glad. I don't
Chris,
quite understand.
part of me could discuss this all night, but people don't like to hear about this. They really don't care. For whatever reason, they don't want to hear about it. But I could discuss this. So I will just ask you one final question.
What the issue is, if they won a championship, oh, they're all mad because why? Because they weren't in the game they would have lost to LSU in. I mean, that doesn't make sense to me. They should be glad that they won a championship. They should be happy.
Let me ask you this question, Chris. Who do you recognize as the national champion in 1997?
Well, you're asking me what my all it does is it just kind of gives it doesn't say who won, but I think it put Michigan first. Is that what you're asking me?
Okay. Michigan's first. Okay. They won the national championship according to your proficiency rating.
The other thing is
you're telling me that there's no disputing that whatsoever, that there is no dispute or argument to say Nebraska deserved or earned that championship just as much as Michigan.
Well, I mean, you can make the argument for either side of it, but it doesn't change what I think. No. I mean, yeah, you could make an argument that they deserve it just as much, but so what's that a big deal about? I don't quite understand. I mean, I put Michigan first, but it's not really me doing it.
You started the conversation out by saying that there are no disputed national championships.
There aren't. Not into my way of thinking. I mean, it puts one ahead of the other. That doesn't necessarily mean that in every circumstance one's going to finish the head of the other one, but in that case, it probably does.
So again, let's retract this for a second. Let's go back and go through the steps. You stated that there are no disputed national championships in your eyes. However, I brought up 3 years, and you definitely came to the point where you determined that 2 of them are somewhat disputed.
Let me clarify one thing before you cut me off, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I draw the line as high as I know how to. You can say I'm drawing it too high or too low or whatever you want to do. I put a number to it. It's 100. Any team that finishes above 100, in my opinion, is an undisputed titleist. And in 97, there were 2 teams that did that. So, I mean, yeah, I guess in that circumstance, there were 2 deserving titleists.
You understand that by stating that, nobody in the chat nor myself know what you're talking about in terms of teams that finish over 100.
Or take a test where you got 100% on a test. I mean, that usually means you aced the test, right? It's the same idea. They both aced. So in other words, there's really no champion. There's 2 teams that finished above 2 deserving titleists, which is what I think actually happened, wasn't it? Michigan, I believe, was recognized by one entity, and Nebraska was recognized. So that's the result. It's not unfair. It's just the way it is, and it's probably the right way to go. And it really
Purple,
doesn't matter to me.
yes. Purple Orca just brought up 1990. Who's your champion for 1990?
Georgia Tech.
Okay.
Does that help? I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it's not my championship, to be honest with you. But oh yeah, Auburn in '83. Does that help? I don't know. Here's an interesting one. I think in '82, I think it was Georgia, even though they lost to Penn State. You can throw me over the fire for that one, I guess.
Well, you
But that's
told
who
me
it is.
that there were no disputed national championships, but you are awarding, or your system, Auburn in 1983, even though the recognized national champion by the AP was Miami.
Well, I mean, I'm just telling you what my proficiency rating says. It says it was Auburn. Yeah, it was Auburn in '83. It was Georgia in '82. What other years do you want to know about? I'll tell you. I mean, BYU in '84. Don't think that really surprises anybody.
No, that's what you're famous for, Chris. That's your.
No, but the interesting thing to that, just so I can explain myself, because I get a lot of flack for it. It's not because I want BYU to be number one. That's just where they finished. I mean, it's like, oh yeah, I cooked it. I cooked it so they'd be number one. No, I really didn't. I cooked it so that it would tell me the right result, and the right result is Brigham Young. But oh no, I cooked it so that it would be BYU. Okay, well, whatever. Believe what you want to believe. I'm not cooking anything, but if that's what you want to think, that's fine. Go ahead and think it.
We'll hit one other year here. Tim Prangley is bringing up 1991. Who's your national champion?
Well, he threw me a curveball, Tim. I leave it up
He
to
didn't
Tim.
throw you a curveball. That's just another season.
Well, I don't remember that one. I think it was Washington and Miami. I don't
Yes.
remember. Okay, well, it's probably two teams then.
They both went undefeated.
No, they both would have been in the range that I just told you about. So there would have been two teams that would have been given the same credit.
Then it was a disputed national championship.
Not necessarily. It just means that you have two teams that both equally deserve the title. I mean, if you want to call it disputed, go ahead.
Okay.
I'm not diminishing one or the other. It doesn't really help for me to do that anyway. My guess would be that maybe Miami finished ahead of Washington, but I'd have to look and find out for sure. I don't really remember.
I'm working on a project that I had hoped to have done a couple of years ago, but some things got in the way. But I hope you will, even if you don't agree with me, that you will find some interest in it. I think it's right up your alley. So we hope to get that out here in the next few months.
Well, no, I thought you raked me over the coals for 1982 because we have Georgia losing, but it's because Penn State lost to Alabama.
I've raked you over the coals for enough, Chris. I don't want to rake you over the coals for anything else.
Well, I mean, if there's a case where I should be maybe, yeah. No, you're fine. I'm not even saying that you're wrong about what you tell me. I don't know that I have a problem with what you do. It's just that generally I think that the right team is given the right recognition. I don't really see that there's a huge problem with what they do, but if you do, I guess that's fine. I don't look at it that way, but you're entitled to your opinion.
Well, for the bulk of college football history, we have had sports writers and coaches, although most of those votes aren't made by the coaches, they're made by staffers, determined based on whatever their criteria was. It's not even stated. It's not even like the College Football Playoff Committee where there is stated criteria, at least, where they just tell us who won the national champion. They just vote on it. Then, of course, we had this BCS era for 16 years, 16 seasons. And now we've got a 14 playoff. So we've improved the process going forward. However, it's still a disputed national championship situation much of the time.
I don't know, Mark. I guess I look at it differently. I'm not sure what to tell you. I don't really see it as a big issue, but I don't quite understand why they couldn't have put 4 undefeated teams in the. To me, that's as easy as it gets, but somebody didn't want to do it, I guess. I don't know.
Okay. Chris, if you haven't heard this, I'm telling the audience here. Chris believes that the 4 undefeated teams in college football should have been in the playoff this year. That would, of course, be Michigan, Washington, Florida State, and Liberty.
Right. That's
and
right.
Of course, we've had this conversation why that is completely ludicrous.
Well, whatever, Mark. I don't really like talking about it, but if you don't want to accept it, what's your prediction for Liberty in Oregon? Maybe that's a good way to take this conversation because You think they'll get blown out by Oregon? I guess if that does happen, then you'll prove a point, I guess.
No, that's not going to prove that much of a point. Regardless of what Liberty does against Oregon, they do not belong in a 14 playoff against the best teams in the country because they're nowhere close to the best team in the country. They're not even the 50th best team in the country.
I would have put Ohio State in there. I think I told you that, but whether or not, I don't know if that necessarily matters. But I have Liberty rated ahead of Oregon, so we can throw me over the coals when I guess Liberty gets blown out by Oregon, but I have Liberty ahead of Oregon right now. I do.
I am going to do an extremely dangerous. No, I'm not. Okay. I thought I had this information in the other room. I was going to hand the network to you there for about 30 seconds, Chris. I was going to do an extremely dangerous thing.
I'm predicting a Liberty win over Oregon. Now you can tell me I'm stupid for doing it, but that's what I'm doing.
No, that's fine. I have in front of me, I started compiling because I will produce a video at the end of this season that will look at the group of 5 versus the Power 5. So if you take the SEC, for example, we'll just go to the SEC.
Sure.
The SEC played 26 games against the group of 5.
Okay.
They won 24. They went 24-2. They outscored the group of 5 by 665 points.
Okay.
And you're telling me that there's not a difference in level of play?
No, I don't remember. I don't remember telling you that. I think I told you there was a 2-to-1 degree separation. 2-to-1. P5 is 2-to-1 better than G5. It's that's over the course of however many years. I'm not even sure. I took it as far back as I could.
It's about 7-to-1.
No, it's 2-to-1.
That's about 7 or 8-to-1.
No, well, you're wrong if you believe that.
Wrong. In terms of wins and losses.
Yeah, wins and losses. Yeah, I already did the math. I already went back and I double checked it. It's 2-to-1.
The most basic math goes wins and losses first and foremost, and then point differential.
I think I actually used point differential, but that's not really what I'm trying to tell you. The separation between P5 and G5, it's 2-to-1.
27-10, 41-11, 61-12. 61-12, 85-14 this year. That's almost exactly 100 games.
Okay.
85-14.
Doesn't really matter to me what you tell me, but that's fine.
I'm not making this up. These are facts. You act like I'm making this up.
My guess would be, not knowing because I haven't really taken time to do it yet, but my guess would be if I went back and crunched all those numbers that you just gave me, it might be a little bit bigger than 2-to-1, but it wouldn't be so much bigger to where I'd have to eat my words.
No, it's 85-14, which is about 7-to-1.
No, you're leaving something out there, but that's fine.
I'm not leaving anything out. The group of 5 and the Power 5 played 99 games this year going into bowl season.
Yeah.
And it's 85-14. And if we went through the 14 games in which the group of 5 won, they would be very understandable losses.
I'll go through this season and I'll call you at a later time. I'll wait even until all the bowls are played, so we even have a better, and I'll tell you exactly what the separation was. And if it's 7-to-1, I'll buy you dinner somewhere.
James Madison beat Virginia by 1 lousy point. James Madison went 11-1 this year, and Virginia was a 3-9 team, one of the worst Power 5 teams. That game was a 1-point game.
Well, I don't know. I mean, didn't USF just beat somebody pretty bad here not too long ago? I mean, 45-0, I think.
What?
But whatever.
Oh, the South Florida Syracuse game. Yes.
Yeah, and USF isn't a G5, I guess. They're the one we're not going to count them because I guess Syracuse had 20 opt-outs or something.
They did. They did.
Okay, we can't count it then. It was opted out.
We will count it, but I'm coming at you with 99 games, and you're bringing up one aberration.
Well, I just told you. I said I predicted a Liberty win over Oregon. That's before the game, so I guess
which means absolutely nothing. Zero. I don't care until the results. I make all sorts of predictions.
I'm not really predicting anything. I'm just giving you what I think might happen. I mean, I don't really predict anything. I'm not very good at that.
I pointed out one game in which one of the worst Power 5 teams in the country lost by 1 point to James Madison, who was 11-1.
Okay. Well, what about New Mexico State and Auburn then? What's the fluke in that one? Well, what's the fluke? I
didn't say there was a fluke.
No, there has to be some kind of a fluke to it. Auburn was looking past them, I guess, because
Well,
you know
that
they knew.
all well could be the
No.
case. There are flukes. There are such things as flukes or aberrations, but when you put together 99 games, and this is every year, Chris, you know that. You know the numbers as well as I do. This
do.
is every year. What happened this year is almost this is like when I say if you look at the top 25 games every week, you're going to have 3 to 4 upsets every week, like clockwork. This is the same thing. It's like clockwork every year that the Power Five is going to beat the Group of Five 85 to 90% of the games. It's
Troy
like
had to beat Duke, I guess.
every year.
Asking you again, did Troy have to beat Duke for that game to matter? I mean, because I don't want to hear when they do that Duke didn't care. Do you know what I mean? I don't mind the fact that Duke won, but I don't want to hear when Troy beats Duke, whenever it is. Oh well, yeah, but Duke, that was a no-win game. New coach.
Duke won.
No.
They
But I
already
know.
played. Duke
My
won.
point is,
Okay.
new coach, new. Troy
I don't need to say anything. I don't need to make those excuses. It's 85 to 14.
Well, like I said, I'm going to take that number. I'm going to try to figure out what the separation is, and then I'll tell you what it is.
It's 85 to 14. That's the separation.
Winning percentage, yeah.
Yes.
That's not the same as you're missing something important, Mark. It's okay. I don't expect
No,
you
I'm
to.
not missing it. This is the next level of the analysis. So anybody that understands football knows that the most important result is the actual scoreboard total. And then the second would be, again, not talking about one specific game, but when we're talking about dozens and dozens and dozens
I'm not a percentage of okay.
Point differential is a very conclusive number. When again, not when comparing one game or 3 games, but 99 games.
I'll use every game. I'll do that.
And I'm going to eyeball it here because I'm not going to go through all these numbers and try to add it. But the Power Five outscored the Group of Five by about 13, almost 2,000 points in those 99 games.
I'll go back and I'll give you the information after I review it. That's fine.
I just gave you the information right there. That's the information that counts right there. That's the scoreboard total. Power 5, 85. Group of 5, 14. And they outscored them by about 2,000 points.
20% winning percentage is a 2-to-1 separation. So it's you're right. It's not 2-to-1. It's worse than that. But if it was 20%, it would be 2-to-1. I already know what it was. It's 1 out of 5. They won 1 out of 5. That's a 2-to-1 separation. That's what it is.
Based on your little system, but based on basic math, a 2-to-1 separation is 60-30 or 70-35. It's not 85-14. Chris, we appreciate you being here, as always. You have a great night. I think we lost him. I think Chris is recalculating something, but there we go. All right, folks. Always love to hear from you in terms of your favorite team, how long you've been watching here at the Voice of College Football, what brought you here. Always like to hear that. And then your college football story. I read you a few responses that we got just here in the last couple of days. So hit me up at MarkRogersTV at Gmail. All right. Also, our Amazon links in the description section of all the videos. So please shop on Amazon using the link that we provide. We also have some really nice looking gear. Of course we do. Top quality. Some good looking stuff there. So we know you can't make it in time for Christmas, but hey, my theory is if the Christmas gift is late, but it's a much nicer Christmas gift than it would have been had it been on time, hey. And when Mike's wearing this stuff, Mike is our unpaid model here at the Voice of College Football. So forget these young folks that are on the screen. They're doing a fine job themselves, of course. Of course, they are specifically wearing those Voice of College Football t-shirts. We all know that. But Mike much, much. I hate to be derogatory toward the young lady there. I'm sure she's a nice girl. She's a very cute girl, but she's no Mike Ford. She is in no way no Mike Ford. So Mike wearing his stuff right now, and from what I understand in the chat, he's taking a few swigs tonight, having a good time. Having a good time. So there you go. We've got our line of apparel. And if you've looked at all this in the past, you'll want to check it out again because Joey's done a remarkable job to restock the shelves. And I am going to get that denim jacket. And you've got the mugs, whether that's a Voice of College Football mug or it's the top 25 that actually makes sense. You'll probably get all sorts of questions if you take out your top 25 that actually makes sense mug in particular. I had some elderly lady somewhere. I don't know where I was. I was probably in some restaurant. Just kind of look at it. And she said, "Oh, that makes sense." I was like, yeah. So yes, the top 25 that actually makes sense mug. All right. Get the lady in your life a fine Voice of College Football sports bra. How about that? There you go. What do we have on page 2? Got a polo, got a fleece zip up hoodie. I like the pullover down there. And so here's the deal on most of the apparel. All the apparel is that we did our best to get the quality where we wanted it and try to combine that and also balance that with price and get the best prices we could. So this stuff is not marked up. And also we wanted to make sure that you didn't get the unwelcome surprise of, okay, this is what I bought. Oh, I got to pay for shipping. And then you get that extra. Oh, okay, it's really going to be this much. Shipping is free. Shipping is included. We have included all the shipping in the cost of the items. Thank you as well there, Moose. Get your ticket smarter tickets. No, so this is, I got to admit, I don't know if this is in play for like concerts. We'll have to go to Ticket Smarter and see. I would think, because of course football season's almost over. But hey, if you want to check out a bowl game close by this week, go to Ticket Smarter. You get $10 off with that promo code of BIG or BIG20 for $20 off. I would think if we go to Ticket Smarter, let's see. Ticket Smarter. I would think that this could be used for concerts and other events. I have not gone to any concerts or events or anything else. So yes, this also works for the theater, family events, concerts, and the like. So thank you so much for posting, Moose. Again, ticketsmarter.com. All right, folks, I believe we've done about as much damage as we possibly can. Thanks for being here at the Voice of College Football. Merry Christmas to everyone. Merry Christmas. And this week, so I've got family in town for about 3 days. And so my aim is to come on here when all the family festivities are done for the night. So it could be late or it could be really late. So if you're a late night person, I'll be here at some point to take your calls after all the bowl games. And then once we hit Friday, maybe Thursday night, definitely by Friday, we'll be back at it, kicking it all in. But all our array of shows, our live streams, which on Tuesday means Iowa and Nebraska and Michigan and Oregon. I forget about some of these. I've got to remember the ones that I'm not hosting. On Tuesday, we've got Iowa live at 5:30 Eastern, Nebraska at 7. We've got the Big 12, biggest 12 show at 7:30. We've got Michigan at 8 with John D'Adamo. We've got Exploring with Ben and the Oregon crew at 10:30 on the Oregon show and on the Oregon channel. So we aim to deliver all the shows that we typically do, all the team channel shows here at the Voice of College Football this week. I will not be on some of them, but we will have hosts and we will deliver here at the Voice of College Football. Let me know if there's anything you'd like for me to hit on. For example, the last show that we did, we had somebody chime in with they would like me to evaluate the transfer portal additions, subtractions, who won the transfer portal, rankings, best players, all that. We'll wait until it all subsides and the transfer portal window closes, which should be in about 10 days, something like that. So we'll do that. And as soon as the bowls are over, get all that research, we will size up the Power 5 versus the Group of 5 as well. And again, hit me up at MarkRogersTV at Gmail. Tell me who you root for so we can count you. And if you want to give me any other stories about how you became a fan, how you found us, all those things, I would love to hear that as well. And I will respond. All right, folks, appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. Any other comments I need to hit? Enjoy the rest of your holiday. We will see you on Tuesday night. Of us are on the internet pretty much all the time. It's fun. You get to socialize, you get entertained, and in this day and age, it's pretty much necessary. And even if you're one of those people that's not on the internet all the time, you know what is? Your personal information. And there are people out there trying to hack you all the time. They want your email address, they want your phone number, they want your place of employment, and they want to do bad things with it. There's also fairly legitimate corporations and companies that want your information. They want it for marketing purposes. They're going to buy it. They're going to sell it. They're going to trade it. At the very least, it's annoying to you. It's a nuisance. It's aggravating. Your email gets cluttered up with spam email. You get robocalls all the time. That's at the very least. At the worst, it's a threat to your family, to your friends, to your personal information, to your banking, to your finances, to your security, to your safety, to your identity. It can be pretty serious. This video is sponsored by Aura. I got hacked and it was pretty obvious. This was about 8 or 9 months ago and there were red flags all over the place. And I didn't exactly know what to do, but I knew I needed to do something quickly. I mean quickly. I researched 8, 10, or 12 companies immediately. I went all over the place. I asked people. I was online looking for the best company that could serve my needs and secure my information. You know who I found? Aura. And I'm glad I did. It was amazing. I contacted them. They got right back to me immediately. Their customer support is phenomenal. Their customer service is first rate, friendly. They are detailed. They know what they're doing, and they do it right, and they will protect you. In addition to everything I just mentioned, they've got a password keeping service. They keep your credit score. They notify you anytime there's a possible data breach. This has happened to me a number of times. I'm getting notifications all the time when there's a possible compromise to my credit score or anything that I don't want. They've got a VPN that will allow you to browse the internet anonymously. It's amazing. And again, customer service support available 24/7. Click the link in the description section below and get 2 free weeks of Aura. Protect your finances, protect your information, protect your privacy, protect your identity. I did, and I'm glad I did. Aura, thank you so much for what you've done for me, and now for my Voice of College Football community.